It was too Pittsburgh the whole time, but it 17th meeting of the Danville City Council. Madam Clerk, roll call to establish a quorum, please.
Mayor Ricky Williams Jr.
Present.
Alderman Ed Butler.
Here.
Heidi Wilson. Carolyn Wands.
Present.
James Bouchard.
Present.
Mike O'Kane.
Here.
Bob Iverson. Mike Poore.
Present.
Rick Streebing. Sherry Pickering. Here. Eve Ludwig.
Present.
Tricia Teague.
Present.
Robert Williams.
Present.
Darren York.
Here.
John Cooper.
Here.
12 present.
12 present. We do have a quorum. At this time, we will have the invocation led by the Reverend Lucius Barber, the pastor of Greater Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Alderman Cooper. Please rise.
Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. Our come on this raging, stormy sea of life. We thank you for being with us, and we thank you for God giving us the strength, the wisdom, and the knowledge to live among each other. We pray tonight, God, that you would bless our city as we hear our leaders of our city and all of those that are involved. We know that times are difficult, but we know that you knows how to work in difficult times. And we pray that for your help and for your guidance. Oh God, lead us from one good degree of grace unto another. We need you tonight, even in our world, our cities. We need you. Storm is raging, the shooting is getting worse among our schools and among our children. Oh God, and we pray that you would give us the guidance that we need to help protect each other. We pray you would put your arms around us, oh God, and lead us from one good degree of grace unto another. We need your guidance tonight. We pray for strength, we pray for wisdom, God, and we pray for the knowledge that we would make good decisions and that we would be able to live by the decisions that we make and that we would be able to help others as we travel along this way. Oh God, in Jesus Christ's name, we ask all of your blessings upon us. Watch over us and keep us, Lord. We know you're able to keep us safe and healthy, spiritually healthy, God. Give us a spiritually dose of your Holy Spirit, God. In Jesus Christ's mighty and magic name, we do ask all of these and all other blessings in your name. And we thank you, and we say amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Barber. We appreciate everything that you and Antioch do for this community. We thank you for that. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the December 3rd meeting?
So second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. You do have before you an agenda this evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. As far as my report, I do not have any proclamations, board, committee, or personnel appointments. However, I will have some for you in January. Are there any reports of boards, agencies, or commissions at this time? As far as items of information go, first of all, we always are to weep with those who weep and mourn with those who mourn. And our comptroller just found out that her grandfather passed away. So our hearts and our prayers are with you, Comptroller Sweeten. Also, given that it is the holiday season, I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Holidays. Hope that everyone has a wonderful and safe time with your families. This time we'll receive our petitions, communications, and audience comments. What I will ask for the sake of time, because there are a number that are speaking this evening, in addition to the 3-minute time limit that is set, if someone has already stated the case that you wish to make, if you would simply say, I concur with so-and-so, and then if you have anything that you would like to add, of course, feel free to add it, okay? But at this time, we'll receive our petitions, communications, and audience comments. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Has everyone had a chance to complete a yellow card who wishes to speak this evening? When I call your name, please come to the podium and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first 7 comments are on the zoning petition, item 8A. So I'll just announce your name and we will know that that's what you're here to speak on. First, I have Martha Jones of Danville.
I live at 2906 Jones Road, which is a Centennial Farm. I was here before. I have found out recently, besides this where they want to rezone, down the road there's another 70 acres that is already in the works for a solar farm. That means that whole road on the north side, minus a house and a little bit of farm ground, would be solar. Seems like an awful lot of solar to me for that area. So I still oppose putting solar in this particular spot. I don't know if any of you ever drove out there, if you even know what it looks like out in that area, but I agree maybe with the 70 acres down the road, but this behind the houses on Burr Road is just too close to residential. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones.
Larry Hill of rural Danville.
I'm currently employed by BTB. It's provided me a great opportunity to support my family and help me do some extra things. I actually have a rental house in Danville that I'm trying to fix up. That'll help me to be able to provide funds to fix that. But it's a great opportunity, and it's doing lots of good things for my family and everyone else around us.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Tony Grillo of Thomasboro.
Hello, my name is Tony Grillo. I'm representing BTB Energy. This was a case similar to what we saw a couple months ago here. It was modified to kind of abide by some wishes of the nearby homeowners, getting some distance. Just to remind everybody, this parcel is kind of split in half. Half of it is already zoned I-1. I'm wanting the other side I-1 so I can square it off. It abides by the rest of the zoning in that area. As you heard, there's actually another solar array being built in that area. Everything around it is I-1 until you get further west towards those houses. Again, like I said last time, I have an interest in investing in the community. We have multiple projects in the city of Danville and greater Danville area. I want to do my part. I want to improve. We have a pretty large undertaking right now on the former drive-in movie theater property. I like to think that it's improved already in the short term that we've been working on it. And again, my goal is to improve, hire people local, provide those jobs, give opportunities to some of those that don't actually have the opportunities, including education, free 4-year apprenticeship program, all with just a high school diploma as a requirement or GED. There's not a lot of opportunities to make $75 an hour, especially around here, everywhere, Champaign County, Vermilion County, and this project allows for that opportunity. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grillo.
Timothy Burks.
My name is Timothy Burks. I live at 217 West 4th Street, Tilton, and I think this is a great opportunity for me and for my family where I can better take care of my mother. And also with that apprenticeship, I think that would be great because I'm 40 years old and I could actually have a great career ahead of me. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burks.
Rob Dietzen of Danville.
I'll try to get through this. It won't take long. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak tonight. I live at 518 Brewer Road. In my front yard faces the proposed solar farm, and it is my understanding that the rezoning that you will be voting on tonight is for that solar farm. First, I would like to say that I am not against solar farms by any means, but I am against it when it affects people's homes and property values. The council some months back turned down a similar proposal in the same general area, and residents in this area spoke out against it for various reasons. The new proposal moves the boundary line approximately 300 feet back. That seems a little fishy to me, but you have to wonder if this was done so notice would not have to be given to the residents who this will still affect. And it will affect those residents. And I could be wrong, but I didn't see it on the Public Works Committee agenda last night. So another no notice. Secondly, if the city approves this, whose job is it to make sure that everything is getting done correctly? Can the city make them keep the weeds down? And if they're putting up trees for a site barrier, as was proposed the last time, and the trees start dying, can the city make them replant those trees? From what I've been told, you can't. Hold on. Yep, from what I told, you can't. So if you agree to this, then you are basically giving that company the ability to do as it sees fit without any repercussions from the city. And I doubt that the township or the county will do anything about it either. I forgot my pictures, but case in point is the solar farm on Michigan Avenue and East Voorhees Street. This solar farm actually butts up to the city, but this company apparently doesn't have to maintain their property. This area has not been mowed one time this year. This should be unacceptable. Lastly, would any of you sitting up here tonight want this in their neighborhood, nonetheless in the view of their front yard? I bet none of you would say yes. We haven't worked our whole life to provide a house for our family and then it be ruined by a solar farm. We are all citizens of this community, whether we live in or just outside the city. The votes from this council affect us all. I ask that you vote no tonight on this rezoning issue and let this company find another place to put the solar farm that won't directly affect the lives or property of members of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dietzen.
Adam Fritz.
I'm Adam Fritz. I live here in Danville. Starting to work over this. It's given me the opportunity to go back to school again to get a German's card as an electrician. It's also brought me back into the county to work. I've been working in Indiana for the last 10 years, paying taxes in that state rather than being here right in my own local hometown. So it's nice to bring my dollars back into the city. And by approving this, it's going to give us extra years of work being here and not have to go out and find employment elsewhere. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Fritz.
Daniel Boyd of Danville.
Hello. I live on 413 Brewer Road. It still would be, back further than what it was, but I already went through this last August twice. But anyway, it's hazardous to our environment as well as the surrounding neighborhoods and communities. There's many, many toxic chemicals. I'll just name a couple. Arsenic, cadmium, telluride, galliums, arsenide, hexafluoroethane, hydrofluoric acid, and lead. And the cadmium is extremely toxic. It can damage your liver, kidneys, bones, and blood. If there's ever a fire, the panels emit toxic fumes. There's really no strict protocols, as you just saw the other guy say that they're not taking care of their property or anything. There can be silicon dust, copper dust, and these solar panels don't last forever. Over time they leak heavy metals and acids. It's just disgusting. Aesthetics is hideous. It's an ugly eyesore. Probably devalues our home. I heard from a lawyer and a real estate agent said it could up to 20%, maybe even 30%, to devalue your home. It disrupts the habitat, destroys our natural wildlife. The animals, the plants, the flowers, the trees, poof, they're all gone. Wasn't a beautiful view in my backyard. It's also fertile farmland. We know Illinois has good soil. We just voted last August, early August, and there was a 3-3 vote, which meant no to solar. So that said, they told me, well, we still got to come back and vote again, but they have to have a super majority to win. They need 10 votes. Well, guess what? They got 9. So we won. They lost. If I would have lost, I would have walked away, licked my wounds, and then took it like a man. But this, and I never found out about this till yesterday. Somebody just told me, I'm like, oh my God, and the meeting's tomorrow. They knew that I would oppose this. They never gave me a warning or any kind of a letter letting me know about this. You know, I was furious. And I don't know how you can justify that you get to vote over and over again until you eventually win. Oh, we lost? Okay, we'll come back. Oh, we lost again? Oh, well, we'll come back. Now we're here for the 3rd time, and the person that would oppose it the most, me, I never even was notified about it. So I'm sorry if I'm getting upset, but it's pretty upsetting.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
Next, I have Jerry Hawker of Danville regarding the gas tax.
Good evening. I understand that part of your budget is based on the gas tax proposal. I know originally it was 9 cents. I think you've changed a little bit in committee. But I'm here to tell you, I don't care if it's a half a cent. It's too much. The citizens are tired of taxes constantly. We cannot afford it. We had a national election. One of the biggest things that came out of that was that people could not continue to afford their groceries, anything. Gas has already started down, so now you're willing to bring it back up. Also, I totally do not understand why you would pay a company $1.3 million to tell you to raise the gas tax. I understand they've done some other things too, but holy moly, I'd like to get some of that work to tell you to raise the gas tax and get paid like that. Also, while I'm up here, the bids that were done with the annex and the tower, I have a real problem with that. You didn't take, the very, very lowest bid was thrown out because it didn't have its insurance papers. That's cool. The next bid you didn't take, the next bid you didn't take, you finally took the 3rd lowest bid. It's costing between the county and the city almost $250,000 more. That's what the bid process is all about. The other thing, the county board, I understand our outgoing chairman signed off on it, but we never seen the bids. We didn't see anything, and that may be hard for you to get past in the county board at this point, I'm telling you. But that's $250,000 plus the gas tax. Plus, you doubled the landlord registration fee. What are you guys thinking? Yeah, it's $30, but depending on how many units, that's every unit. If you've got a 4-plex, it's ×4. You know, everybody's hurting. I don't understand why you had to raise that either. And the other thing I'm here to talk about is my friend who was totally discriminated against and retaliation that you guys have been talking about. She's been a friend of mine for 30, 40 years. If there's ever a case of a landlord committing retaliation against a tenant, this is it. You pass the ordinance, it said it, and you come back, well, it doesn't have teeth. I don't care, it was there, it was in it. It was turned over to Sandra. She done an excellent job with my friend investigating it. But then it goes to the, I'm gonna finish.
Thank you, Mr. Hawker.
Just a couple more seconds. Then it went to the attorney, city attorney. I took her there. She couldn't even get an audience with the city attorney to come in and sit down with her.
Thank you, Mr. Hawker.
He has said that
Mr. Hawker,
that he had not seen this case.
Mr. Hawker, your time is up,
That
sir.
is totally untrue.
Thank you very much.
Lisa Beath of Danville regarding responsibility to citizens.
Hello again. The first time I was here was when we were talking about the 4-day work week. And I just shared with you that I thought that it was our responsibility to our citizens to provide them with a more comprehensive service. And that means not closing 3 days a week, but to have the city council, the city hall open 5 days a week. And, you know, by whatever means that takes, if it means scattering schedules or whatever, you know, we need to do that. And I'm glad that it did not pass, but I was really disappointed. I left after I spoke, and I was so disappointed in the vote that was taken that so many aldermen were in favor of that. I don't understand. We as aldermen, department heads, anybody who gets a City of Danville paycheck is working for the city, the citizens of our city. And, you know, it's kind of sad that we just kind of, you know, do whatever is comfortable for us and without thinking about the city. You know, I can remember when Mayor Williams was sitting in Ed Butler's seat here, and he said, you know, we need to be good stewards of the city, and we need to, you know, take care of their money. We were talking about finances at that time, but it's the same concept. We need to be good stewards of the city. So Jerry talked about the tax levy and the budget, and that's another thing that was on my list, so I won't go into that. But, you know, please remember that you represent the city. You don't represent wards 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. You represent everyone. And the people in your ward may be able to afford the increase in the taxes, but not everybody can. So, you know, don't just talk to your folks, talk to other people. If you can't find people to talk to, go sit down at the transfer zone someday, because there are plenty of people that will tell you, I can't afford that. They can't even afford to get a car. They're taking the bus. So, you know, please be aware that your responsibility as aldermen is to find out what the people can do and what they can't do, what they're pleased about, what they're not pleased about, and then represent them. Don't just vote like someone else on the council does. You go do your homework, because that's your job, is to do the homework and be prepared when you get here and already have asked the questions. I know when I was a department head, I didn't like to see an alderman or hear an alderman on the phone asking questions, but by golly, that's your job. So, you know, whether we like it or not, we are working for the citizens as well. So, is that the buzzer again? I always get that. I got that last time. I didn't even get to finish, but I am done. So please just consider everyone.
Thank you, Director B.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you very much. This time you have before you item 8A as an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and accompanying map ZP number 301 for petitioner BTB Energy Solutions, PIN number 2312-300-21. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item 8A? Yes, Chairman.
So the part in red is the part that they're wanting to annex. The other part is already zoned for that. Is that correct?
Yeah. If you're, are you referring to the zoning map?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, zoning map and the one right above.
Yeah. So the pink is the light industrial and the green is the rural residential. The green is where they are proposing to rezone, and yes, the red line reflects the new boundaries being requested.
Okay.
23, Vice Chairman.
Yeah, right here.
It's 23.
Okay.
Thank you.
So all around is zoned already industrial, or I-2, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to square that parcel off, and then there is a 300-foot boundary. You're saying that's the
survey would be on page 17 in the packet. It's 270 feet.
270 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Alderman Cooper.
What type of modifications were made to present this one?
Yeah. It's that 270 feet to the north. And then roughly they sliced off 7.67 acres from the prior proposal. So a subdivision of the land is being proposed. They drafted a new legal description and essentially squared off the lot with which is the 13.87 acres, which is a substantial enough change to have the petition reheard.
And what type of buffer do we require?
So the buffer from the panels would need to be 100 feet from a residential zoning district.
As far as a view blockage, are we encouraging that, I assume?
Yeah, so they already have to screen it in with a fence. And after speaking to the petitioner, it sounds like vegetation being planted is in the plans as well. While the city cannot enforce, since they have that setback, the vegetation and the fence, they are required by state law to have a fence around the site.
And somebody brought up the idea of chemical hazards and all that. I mean, what's the reality of that?
I don't have any opinion to give on that.
Can I ask him?
Sure, yes. Mr. Grill, if you come forward, please.
So there's no definitive proof about panels leaching chemicals into the ground. I think I've never even heard of some of the chemicals that he said. I think that the panels, from what I've seen over the past 6 years, they don't clearly degrade. I've not seen any scientific real studies regarding chemicals leaching off of panels from actual real-life testing laboratories, whether that's EPA, Department of Energy, because they do test those things to make sure that the chemicals aren't leaching. So yeah, I think that answers your question.
So if I lived at one of these houses at 537, 509, 503 or whatever, will I be able to see them, the panels?
I think after the vegetative screening, no, you won't. So you're talking the houses on Brewer Road.
Right.
Yeah, I think that 270 feet is already a pretty good distance. There'll be a pollinator habitat in that 270 feet, along with an evergreen, like vegetative fence along there. So no, I don't think they're ever going to see it. So correct. She will see it, but to be clear, the 10 acres that's already zoned appropriately, we are going to move forward with that one. So she's going to see it. Everyone's going to see it regardless. It's just it depends on where and how much. So
okay,
if that makes sense.
Logan, the pink is all general industrial. It looks like there's partial green, but not a lot. Can anything go on that general industrial? Does he have to have rezoning for if he wanted to put panels anywhere on those?
Yeah, so the I-1, which is light industrial, they do have the right to put the solar panels on I-1 by right. It is a very restricted industrial zoning district compared to the dark pink, which is you can see a little bit on the map, which is general industrial. There's not a whole lot of uses that are allowed in the light industrial. It's pretty limited.
So general industrial, you can't put panels on, or you can?
You can. So I-1 and I-2, which is light pink and dark pink, is permitted use by right for solar panels.
And the guy who lives at 413, you're on industrial property. I don't know if you know that or not, but you're on it. So if I'm reading this right,
yeah.
431. Oh, 431. You said. I thought you said 413. That's okay.
He just grabbed a article from the EPA.gov. Are solar panels hazardous waste when generators or recyclers discard them? It is important to note that solar panels are safe during use. While solar panels may contain small amounts of toxic metals like cadmium, silver, or lead, working solar panels do not leach those toxic metals. They have a strong encapsulant that prevents leaching. Cadmium telluride photovoltaic cells are sealed between two sheets of glass to protect the semiconductor materials from the outside environment. Silicon modules are typically sealed with a front sheet of glass with a polymer encapsulant and back sheet. So,
lifespans of these panels are what, 25 years?
25 to 35 years. They have a 25-year unlimited warranty on them, and then after that, they begin to degrade for output. So.
Degrading or anything happens before the 25 years, are you responsible, and will you take care of all that? And will that be?
Yeah, I mean, I I'm responsible because if they're not producing the right amount of power, we're gonna want to replace them to make sure that they're, we have no interest in leaving something that isn't actually working. We want to fix it and make sure it's operating because that's how we're taking advantage of that power, so.
And I guess another concern is, at the end of 25 years, Logan, is there any type of writing that says they're in charge of removal, or?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The city of Danville's current solar ordinance does not require a decommissioning plan. The developer would have to speak to it if the state of Illinois has that. This is outside of the municipal boundaries, so whether we enforce that or not is a legal question. My opinion is the city of Danville does not, as you heard from Rob tonight, does not regulate any building outside of the municipal limits. We only regulate use per our zoning code. So the county would be responsible, in our opinion, of regulation of this site.
For what it's worth, state law does include the requirement for what they call an AIMA, Agricultural Impact Mitigation Agreement, which essentially says that when it stops becoming when it's no longer a solar array, it needs to be reverted back to farmland once it's done, so.
And does that farmland have any problems producing after you take the panels out?
To be honest, I think that, I've argued this other times, I think that my, whatever it will be, 25 acres or something, will be more valuable than farmland that's been farmed for the past 25 years, because mine won't have been turned and turned and turned and turned and washed out, because we're not tilling it every fall for the rain to wash it away. We're keeping pollinator habitat throughout it, and I don't know if, there's all sorts of studies on the root system of pollinator plants and native plants that actually retain moisture and retain that soil at a higher level than tilled farmland, excuse me.
So all this paint can be solar panels, and the only reason it's coming in front of us because it's in the 1.5 miles, I assume.
Correct, and I want to correct what I just stated. It's not our opinion that it is the county's responsibility. We are going to leave it up to Vermilion County on whether they want to regulate it or not within their solar ordinance.
Do they approve it also?
They do have their own solar ordinance, but since there is a little bit of complication from whether or not they're covering within our 1.5 mile zoning jurisdiction right now.
Well, that's sort of messed up.
Yeah.
It is a mess. We do go through the county's approval process, and we'll follow whatever guidelines that they stipulate to us. So.
I'm done.
Y'all got a question?
Yes, Alderman Butler.
Oh, yes. My core question is, I went down the highway one time and I saw weeds growing around the solars. Are y'all responsible for maintaining the weeds?
Yep. So we do maintain our solar arrays. We partner with Pheasants Forever. They actually have what they call a 24-inch habitat mix. So inside the array gets that 24-inch mix, with the idea being that all those plant species won't go above 24 inches. On the edge of the solar array, the fence line, and the right-of-way at the street, it's all manicured turf grass, so mowed, weeded, so.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I have two questions. So I'm looking at the photograph that's on page 23, which even though it's a 250-foot mailer photograph, it still has a topographical view. So is it correct that the majority of the rest of this that's zoned light industrial is undeveloped? Because it looks like it's probably undeveloped.
Yeah, the agriculture ground surrounding it. Yeah.
So even though it's zoned light industrial, like for the residents who live on Brewer Road, they actually see all the way to the tracks because there's nothing else there.
That is correct.
So this would basically just be a solar array in the middle of a bunch of farmland that, even though it's zoned light industrial, is not actually being used as light industrial currently. It's basically being used as farmland.
Yeah, that's correct. Comprehensive plan passed in 2005, future land use map dictated that be zoned I-1. That's how it got there.
Okay. And then my next question is, for the portion, because I don't know what road this is, but So you're squaring off. So the portion that you own that is currently zoned correctly, if this doesn't pass tonight, are you still planning to put solar array on the part that is already zoned?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
Those are the questions I had. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman Poor.
There was a comment that there was no notice of this. It was heard by zoning on the 5th of, planning and zoning on December 5th. I'm assuming that was published, that there would be a meeting talking about this on our website and.
Yeah,
and a meeting and
all
everything.
publication statutes and ordinance were followed since the properties that were initially sent the letters were within 250 feet on the prior ordinance, and now since they've moved it out to 270, the letters are not sent to those prior
So
properties.
there was notification via media.
Correct.
That this was going to be coming between planning and zoning and the full council tonight.
Correct.
It's just the fact they weren't within 250 feet is why there wasn't a personal letter sent.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Alderman Cooper.
You say you've got plans to put some up
Alderman, can
now.
you lower your microphone just a bit, please?
I guess you say you've got plans to put some up now. Whereabouts are you putting them?
Where our current projects are?
Well,
Or what we'll do. So on the half, I don't know what screen you're looking at, but there's this, what we want is a rectangle. Right now it's split into two triangles. And the eastern triangle is what we will be moving forward with.
I know that's what you want right now. Where are you putting the other, you say you're putting panels up in there now, right? That's in the plans? And you,
correct, yep.
You want additional, where are you putting them up at now? Or where are you gonna put them? Oh, right here, okay. I got you.
Okay.
Need advice from the younger guy. Okay. I'm good.
Okay.
Any further discussion or debate?
Yeah.
Yes, Alderman
Yeah.
Bouchard.
This is kind of a downer, but having owned farm ground in southern Illinois, I've dealt with solar panel companies a little bit. And the one company that my neighbor dealt with, they buried those solar panels, the concrete, like 10 to 12 feet deep into the soil. Is that correct?
No, our posts are just pushed into the dirt. So that post is just driven into the dirt. You could go pull it out with a skid steer, backhoe. It takes 2 minutes to pull that post out, and you wouldn't even know it was there. So.
And how would you bring the farm ground back to its full capacity to grow again if you had to take them up?
I mean, I think, let's pretend it got built tomorrow, and in 5 years, we're taking it down. I think those solar panels get sold on a secondary market. I think the steel gets scrapped. Those posts get pulled out of the ground and scrapped, driven right over to Mervis, and somebody comes in with a V-plow and rips that ground, flips it, and discs it, and cultivates it, and then I think they're planting that next in a month. So I think the decommissioning, the path from realizing we're not operational to planting corn is a very short time period. So,
Well, I know some friends of mine put 100 acres into it. They offered them $10,000 an acre. It took them a while to get their money. They finally came up with a lot of money. They're middle-aged guys that were farming, were productive farmers, and they gave up good farm ground for these solar panels. And their house actually sits right in the middle of this, like this 100 acres.
Okay.
Seriously, right in the center. They're looking at them every day. They hate it because they are farmers, but they gave up good ground. The price of farm ground's raising every week.
Yep.
You can go anywhere, their farm ground, it may be worth such dollars today. Next month, I'll guarantee you it's worth more money.
Yeah.
And I don't see how the solar panels and the companies can be profitable. We do have a new president. He is not for solar or battery electronic sources. What's that going to do to these solar panels? Because he is not for it at all. And I don't see how that it could be profitable for someone to put up good farm ground, to put something in the ground that's maybe not to get any kind of financial backing whatsoever.
I mean, to give you an answer, there are a lot of state and federal incentives. And I think, like I said at the previous council meeting, my biggest goal, I mean, I come from a small community. I don't know that I completely agree with all of the state and federal incentives, but being able to pump as much of that state and federal money into local economies, whether it's Danville or Champaign-Urbana or Rantoul, has been awesome. I mean, like I said, we're hiring people, paying them $70 an hour and giving them a free apprenticeship program. It's unheard of, but it's that federal and state money that has made that possible. So I think trying to capitalize on it is huge. So.
Well, I know it started out really very enticing, but I don't know if it's going to be that enticing down the road or not. So I just wanted to see what your thoughts are on that.
Agreed.
Thank you, Alderman Broussard. Yes, Alderman Butler.
And so you're saying that then, once they're gone, and then you take up all the steel and the solars, the property go back to the owner?
Correct, yep, and actually the owner of Donato Solar, he's actually the landowner, so will be, technically hasn't closed, but he'll own it as well. So, I mean, there's definite financial incentive, to have, he's gonna have 30 acres here, that he's not gonna wanna just sit and, be idle. So the idea is, land it has to be productive to make money, whether it's crops or solar or building rentals, things like that, so.
Yeah, okay, and I appreciate the solars as well. We've sent men's young fellows out at DAC, and then they have passed the classes, solars, and
Yep, I have had
they're doing well.
I've had several meetings with DAC to have a solar training pipeline from them. So
yeah, right. I'll send them through Dr. Nacko, and he just walked them over there, and it's an apprentice program. Is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Alderman Iverson?
No.
Poor?
Yes.
Streebing, Pickering?
No.
Ludwig?
No.
Teague?
No.
Williams?
No.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
No.
Bouchard?
No.
O'Kane?
Yes.
5 yes.
5 yes, the motion fails. You have before you the payrolls of December 6th and 13th of 2024. Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Roll call vote, please.
Chairman Poor?
Yes.
Alderman Streebing? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, the motion carries. Audience members, if you could please leave quietly, I would appreciate that so we can continue to conduct business. Thank you very much. You also have before you the vouchers payable of December 10th and 17th, as well as a special run from December 17th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Yes, Vice Mayor.
I have a question on the special run. There's a payment for professional services to MHCPA PLLC for bank reconciliation services. So I was under, and I might have forgotten about this. I was under the impression that we were using a different company to help with bank rec. So is this one a new contract, or I'm just curious as to this payment to this particular company.
So that's Martin Hood.
Oh, that's still Martin Hood. Okay.
Yeah, and their invoices were a little bit behind. I think that's the last one. We're probably going to be about $5,000 under budget is what we're hoping to see.
Okay. And so they're done, correct?
They are done. They've been done for maybe a month, ever since Pat Owens came in.
Okay.
We've relieved them of their duty, and hopefully we don't have any more questions for them or anything, but they are done.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Treasurer. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Chairman Strebe, Alderman Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Hoare,
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, the motion carries. At this time, we will receive the Public Works Committee report. Chairman Poor.
Thank you, Mayor. 11A is a resolution amending the 22-23 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action and Consolidated Plan Program year 2020 through 2024. B is a resolution amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget for Community Development Block Grant Fund 106. If there's no objection, I'd like to take those both together, move to dispense with reading and ask for your approval. We'll need a second.
Second.
Comments?
Yeah, I got a question.
Alderman Cooper.
Logan, $45,000 going to homelessness, what are we doing with that? Are we gonna be able to give that firm money to help them, or what?
Yeah, so, using HUD and CDBG funds for professional services typically is not something that is done because it's an administrative cost, and we push our administrative cost pretty much to 100% of the capacity that we're allowed to, which is 20% of each annual grant. What these funds will be used for is the actual construction of a project for homelessness in this community, to hopefully expand the homelessness services that we have. I'm hoping to unveil that project to the city council within the next month or so.
So we're not gonna be able to give those people additional money, then apparently we're gonna have to build? 45,000 isn't gonna build a lot.
There are other dollars. This is just moving existing dollars that are not being spent. We currently have about $118,000 in homelessness funds. We can put a pretty good dent on a project, yeah.
In a real timeline or a hopeful timeline, when would you like to have this all done?
This project with this money,
yes.
I am hoping to go out to bid for a project within the next month.
Okay.
Anything else, Alderman Cooper?
No, I just glad we're doing something about it.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call, please. Oh, Trish, I didn't see you.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
I'm actually trying to jump ahead and find, because we took A and B together, so I'm trying to find where B starts. I see there's a lot to A. So if you could point me to a page number, because I keep scrolling through trying to look for 11B and I don't see it.
Yeah.
Because the next number that I see.
Page
Go ahead.
260.
260. I'm not seeing that on 260. Maybe yours is different.
Yeah.
'cause
266 is on the Eric's.
260. Still not seeing
Are their packets
that.
different?
It appears.
It's 268.
Okay.
268, scan page.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I read through it earlier, but.
Did you find it, Vice
Yeah,
Mayor?
I found it, yes, thank you.
It's so small.
Anyone else? Roll call, please. On A and B.
Alderman Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams, York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Hoare,
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, thank you, the motion passed. 11C, resolution accepting a contract for further site investigation at 815, 817, and 821 North Vermillion, and 814, 816, and 818 Hazel Street. Move to dispense reading, ask for your approval, need a second.
Second.
Questions?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah. Essentially, the US EPA and IEPA got together to discuss how to approve the City of Danville's remediation plan for the site cleanup grant at this site. In order to get to that point, They are requiring additional soil borings and reports back to them. That is the cost to essentially utilize the close to $1 million in grant funding.
Okay, no comment.
And for the point of information, can you tell us which sites these are?
Yeah. So the former First Farmers Bank site on the southeast corner of Vermilion and Fairchild, the former Classy Critters building to the east of that, the former Fonders Dry Cleaners to the south of the former bank, and there was an apartment building, a smaller lot to the south of the laundromat. That's one of the parcels, and then to the east of those structured parcels was a vacant lot on Hazel Street.
Alderman Cooper.
Is this the land that, did you ask for bids on this land or something? Was that the one we were talking about on this one?
Yeah, we had to go out to bid to select a consultant to help administer the US EPA site cleanup grant.
Oh, it's for a consultant, not for businesses.
Oh, yeah,
located.
and we just, we let and opened a RFP for development on the corner.
No interest?
More than nothing. Nothing was submitted, but developers are paying attention to this corner. I think that was essentially the strategy. Yes, if we receive proposals back from developers, great. But really right now we're trying to attract attention from major retailers across the country, and I believe it did so.
Alderman Butler.
Yes, I got a question as well, for the lot there on the corner, so we talked about it there last week. Now, they're putting the soil back in now. What the soil can't be tested before?
Yeah.
It's put in.
You're talking about the old former gas station site to the north.
Exactly.
Yeah. We did stop by to inquire why there was a large hole on the site after just discussing it. Essentially, the US EPA notified them that they had to bring out more soil contamination that has been identified on the site. The developer is not certain if this is the final time that you'll see a large hole dug there. But again, the city is putting pressure on them to grade and seed the site to make it safe for the residents of Danville.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please, on 11C.
Alderman Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, thank you. If there's no objection, I'd like to take 12E, or D and E together. D is a resolution authorizing amendment under the IDA, on the Housing Development Authority. E is a resolution amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to reflect the increased Illinois Housing Development Authority and Homeowner Assistance Fund home repair. Move Spence read and ask for your approval. Need a
Second.
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 Questions? Okay, roll call on D and E.
Vice Mayor Teague?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, thank you. 11F is a resolution awarding a contract for bid number 763, ravine stabilization improvements, and designating construction contingency for ARPA stormwater improvement projects. Can I take G with that too? G is a resolution approving a professional service agreement for construction engineering service for ARPA-funded stormwater management projects. There's no objection, I take F and G together. Move Spence read and ask for your approval.
Second.
Okay, questions? Okay, roll call on 11F and G.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, thank you very much. 11H is a resolution awarding the contract for bid number 764, the Garfield Park Infrastructure Project. Move to dispense reading, ask for your approval. Need a second.
Second.
Any questions? Alderman Cooper.
Okay, what are we doing here? I mean, just give me an overview on what we're doing.
Yeah, so, we're putting in basically, there'll be a parking lot on the east side of the pool building that'll serve the pool and the park. And with that, there will be sidewalk that attaches the pool to the rest of the park. That would be kind of the southwest side. On the northwest side, which would be at the intersection of Fairchild and Griffin, there will be a football field, 100-yard football field that'll be north-south direction along Griffin Street, just north of the Boys and Girls Club. And we've taken into account any future expansion that the Boys and Girls Club may have there. And then, so along Fairchild Street and along Griffin Street, just behind the sidewalks, there will be fence installed just for safety of kind of pedestrians that are in the park there. And there will be a bleacher pad that's poured that we'll use our current city-owned bleachers to take out there. So all of this will be incorporated within the current concession stand area and basketball courts that are there. So the park is kind of designed to be laid out around those. There's kind of walking paths that go around those. And then there's a place for playgrounds there as well. So in addition to that work, there's also, when we had our community outreach meeting for this park, a big concern that was out there was storm water issues, a lot of just real wet soils and flooding issues out there. So that's also getting taken care of in this. There will be a detention basin that's kind of on the north side of the pool that gets put in. It'll be a dry basin, but that will be there as well just for drainage purposes. So that's all that's included in this particular project that you're voting on today. However, I also wanted to share with you, we received a press release from the state this morning stating that we did in fact receive the OSLAD grant for the park, which would be park equipment, and I think there's going to be, there will be a pavilion that gets added, some other things, some other items that will really be able to complete the park in totality. So that's really awesome news. We haven't received the official award, but we saw it in a press release that we've been awarded. So, we can only hope, but that's the intent. It's been publicized that we got it. So,
Football field going to be turf or grass?
So it'll be grass. However, to make sure that it gets put in, we do have the option. We intend to take the option to ensure it's established well before the season. We asked for optional pricing within the bid to put in sod. And we intend to utilize that. It wasn't too much of a cost increase for the fact that we would be ready for games. So, according to all the low contractor bid, it should be ready to go. According to their schedule that they provided, it should be ready to go by time for playing season.
Who will be using that field?
I know historically who's used it has been the Seahawks mainly. That it would depend on how things shake out, if there were more use or not.
And there are representatives from the Seahawks here as well. We appreciate y'all
Well,
being
you got
here.
3 teams in town.
Yes.
So, I mean, will they have access to it if so needed, I guess? I mean,
I would say as long as schedules work out and they're able to work those out, schedule wise, yes. The intent, it's a park and we intend for it to be used as much as we can. We want to make sure we're impacting the community as best we can.
Lighting or not?
There will not be lighting for the football field. No.
We've got quite a few parks in town, and this is, am I against it? No. Just, this is total Probably gonna be 16 million, I imagine, all in that little area, isn't it? Probably, with the pool and all this? Am I right or wrong? Am I close?
That's approximately correct.
Yeah.
There's other parks that need attention. That's what I've got a problem with, I guess. Mr. Yates, I guess you got something.
So we have so the good news is in this budget that we propose, there are going to be substantial upgrades to nearly every park throughout the entire community, particularly Cannon Park in your ward, Elmwood Park are going to see substantial upgrades. Lincoln Park is going to see substantial upgrades. So in the budget that we provided, there will be substantial upgrades at most of the other parks throughout the entire community.
Did you mention Mead Park in that? I didn't.
No, I did not.
Will they be included in this also?
No, they are not included in the plan, only primarily because that's likely where one of our fire stations will go.
Chief Yates had something, John, too, I think.
Yeah.
Just in reference to, the youth football programs, just to give you, and you see this a lot probably, I don't know which teams that you rep for, I know you've done ours. We've been, the Danville Saints have been blessed with a good partnership with Schlarman Academy. However, the Seahawks and the Chargers, and then the Bears before that, they've really struggled as far as, not with their numbers and the impact that they have on the community, because they have wonderful numbers, but their ability to host different football games at what would be considered their home field. Where all those teams, and I'm not for sure what the status of the Bears are, however, the Seahawks, the Saints, and the Chargers represent the city of Danville in the CIYFL, which is based out of Champaign. And the teams that we play are between Decatur, from Decatur all the way as far east as Danville. And as far as the football only, I don't beyond my scope on that. But being the chair for the Danville Saints and being involved with it for over 20 years, them having a field, because Douglas Park does not have the ability to hold a regulation field. Right. Ellsworth Park does not have a regulation field. Even the Seahawks at the old field that they had at Garfield Park did not have a regulation field. And when they're playing all the different programs that do have regulation fields, and now many of the teams are getting support from Urbana and Champaign, it sure would be nice for the Seahawks and the Chargers and everybody else that can play there to be able to have a place to represent another representation from Danville. And they do a lot of good work in our community.
Well, that's what I was getting around to, because one of the teams sort of got screwed last year because they couldn't host a home game.
Yeah, and that has a lot. We were able to host some over at the Seahawks hosted, and the Chargers, I can't remember which ones, hosted over at Ellsworth Park. But that was an agreement, but that's not even ideal, especially the way the parking and the setup is as far as security, ingress, egress, and all that. And I think that there's going to be conversations in this year's league meetings about whether or not those places are even going to be permitted to hold games. So this is very important. We're opponents of the Seahawks and the Chargers and everything, but we're not when it comes to what we're all doing for the benefit of well over 250 youth in our community.
I just sort of got a problem with $16 million going into one area, so that's just my opinion.
Vice Mayor.
I have a bunch of questions. First, will this work complete all of the work at Garfield? Obviously, the stuff that's coming from, with the exception of what's coming from the OSLAD grant.
Yes.
Okay. And then what's our anticipated completion timeline?
So per their bids, they're looking basically end of summer should be complete. That would also depend on any potential things we run into, change orders, those types of things always end up So I never like to set expectations too high, but but they're intending right now. Their schedule looks like into summer.
Okay. And then how much was the OSLAD award? Do we know?
According to the newspaper article, it looked like 600,000.
And then is that on top of ARPA funds, or does that provide us the opportunity to shift ARPA funds?
So that's on top of the ARPA funds right now. So the current project is basically planned for basically sidewalks below. And then the OSLAD grant was for playground equipment, everything that would be above ground type deal. That's in generality, but that's basically how it's been separated. So OSLAD grant will be an addition. Now, we do have money set aside within this for contingency, construction contingency. That's pretty typical. We want to make sure that that gets set aside within the ARPA money so that we're using that. However, after the project, whatever was not used, that money is able to be, reconfigured within current ARPA projects. It isn't locked in to have to be spent at that park. So.
And then my last question is, obviously there's plans to do additional work at other parks. When will we see those plans?
Well, in generality, those plans are on the CIP plan for this current budget that's coming up. So we can pull those up and I kind of talk through what those might look like, but we could probably put a little presentation together for you guys just to see kind of what we're looking at, what the before pictures look like, and why we are investing where we're investing. We did a little ride around, and although I think I get out of the office and go see stuff plenty, we went to some locations that I was mighty surprised since last time I was out there how much things have deteriorated. So yep.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Alderman Butler.
Yes, I'm like Alderman Cooper as well. I'm not against the park per se, and I'm hoping that we'll find some type of funding for to get some lights out there, because sometimes it does get dark, and this might be old news. I mean, we probably already know it there, but to have it kind of reiterated to how we, Danville especially, reads the Wall Street Journal, and it tells us about the funding, the American Rescue Plan. While facilities like the Danville Aqua Center will likely provide enjoyable areas residents for years, such expenses aren't smart use of federal taxpayers' dollars, especially considering that the funds that built the new water park were intended for COVID-19 recovery efforts. Unfortunately, this was questionable. Expenditures represent a small fraction. Now, it also go to say that this particular pool of money has bankrolled many projects like the Danville Aqua Center. It's a spending spree that should upset all taxpayers, as such projects demonstrate a complete lack of oversight and blatant misuse of funds intended to accelerate the nation's economic rebound. Danville population is to 28,000 is far from alone in this trend of insufficient spending. Under the law, guidelines, state and local governments are restricted to using funds only for categories of eligible expenses. Responding to the revised economic effects of COVID, providing additional compensation for essential workers, restoring lost revenue, and advancing critical infrastructure projects like water, sewer, broadband projects. Danville received a total of $26 million in American Rescue Plan funds and allocated half to a water park open only 3 months a year. The city is still grappling with the fallout from Quaker Oaks' December departure, leaving more than 500 residents without jobs. It is beset by deteriorating infrastructure, a historic decline in population, pouring $13 million into a water park seems like satire. And so from the beginning, with this ARPA money for recovery of the people that has lost their jobs, we should have done something for those people that lost their jobs during the COVID.
Where was it? Mr. Butler, do you know who wrote that article?
Oh, yeah, right there. It was a Republican wrote it. Mr. Lane is a Republican strategist based in Illinois.
Do you know anything about Mr. Lane?
It doesn't matter. The meaning, the reason for the ARPA fund, people lost their lives. And that's the only reason that we got this COVID money for recovery.
But yes, but sorry, I understand. But
For
my
the
question
family.
is, do you know, what do you know about Mr. Lane? And do you know if this is an opinion piece or if this is written by a reporter, or do you know that information?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if I know the man or not.
But do his credentials matter to you?
Is that this recovery money, Mr. Mayor, should have been to help some of the people that lost their lives, lost their jobs, the companies lost money. And no, I don't know him, and he just has a good point.
Well, I would just, a couple of things I would state for you. Number one, that gentleman is someone who only partially lives in Danville sometimes. He actually ran unsuccessfully for mayor. He attempted to run, but because he didn't complete his paperwork properly, he was removed from the ballot. He has a little bit of an axe to grind, and some of the information that he provided in that is actually not even factually correct number-wise. So before we rely too much on opinion pieces to criticize, I would encourage us to make sure that we do our homework and make sure that we assess the validity of the claims that are made. Furthermore, what I would strongly encourage you and any others who have a concern about whether or not this met the guidelines that were required to read the ARPA plan that is outlined on our webpage. It states very clearly, directly from the ARPA plan, the purposes that this could be used for. One of the things that it said was that especially in low economic entities, COVID disproportionately affected lower income individuals and especially minorities because of their health outcomes. And so one of the main goals of this was to help people improve their quality of life and their health outcome. It's very clearly detailed across dozens of pages in the ARPA guidelines. So this did very much meet those ARPA guidelines. We assessed it, we compared it to be sure that it was accurate. So I just wanted you to know that. Furthermore, we did actually help a lot of people. We gave out maybe $1 million or more in grants from a different portion of ARPA money. Not ARPA, but it was for COVID recovery for people that lost their businesses. For their businesses were shuttered, up to $10,000. Individual contractors got up to $2,500. And also, we helped people who were behind on their home payments, on both their mortgages and also who were behind on their rent payments. So what I would just challenge you to know is that we did, in fact, fulfill the intents and the requirements of the law, and we did, in fact, help the very people that you're talking about. Furthermore, what I would tell you is that we put over 100 people to work for more than a year constructing that pool and also for all the work that's done at Garfield Park. Just like we talked about earlier, you said you were so proud of the young men of this possible solar array for providing jobs and paying people well. Those construction workers made a good bit of money because I know a number of them who live in this community. So lots of people were paid good money to help improve our quality of life. So I would just encourage you, to make sure that before we rely on opinion pieces, that we make sure that the facts are accurate in those pieces And also, I just wanted to make you aware of how we did comply with the law and how we did in fact help people who lost their jobs, who were out of work. We did in fact help people who were behind in their car payment. Mr. Butler, actually, I forgot about that. We even actually helped people who were behind in their car payments. So we did in fact help the people. We're talking millions of dollars. Furthermore, the other thing that I want to say to the public is just, we didn't spend all the money on Garfield Park. You have almost $9 million going on stormwater projects. We are going to be completing, I think, 7 or 8 of the top 10 stormwater projects in this community. So we are going to be stopping neighborhoods from flooding. We are going to be stopping people from getting feces and sewer backing up in their house with this ARPA money. We also provided, we purchased 2 new fire trucks that we desperately needed, a ladder truck well over $1 million, and another fire truck. So, you know, it's not like we only spent money on the pool, we only spent money on Garfield Park, but you as a King of Peace, you know, Mount Olive sponsored that great basketball program for years. You know how many hundreds of kids were involved in that. You know how many hundreds of kids are involved with cheerleading and football through the Seahawks. You also know how often that park is used by the Boys and Girls Club, by the neighboring schools. You know, for example, East Park and Northeast take their kids there for field days and other things because they're within a couple of blocks. This also helps shore up all the rest of the properties that are left in that community by making sure that they have a quality park surrounding them. So, but I would just, you know, encourage you. I don't know, maybe I could, if you haven't had a chance, just let me know. We can get you a copy of that ARPA program, but it literally quotes exactly for each penny that we spent. It quotes exactly from that fund, Mr. Butler, where how we are meeting the requirements of the ARPA funds and what goals and objectives we're meeting. And you know, I would just encourage you to review that because it's anyone can do a hit piece. I know people have written and said things about you that were false, right? I know that they sure have about me. So, you know, I just want to make sure that we have all the facts and that we stick to those because otherwise we end up in a place where we're casting false aspersions unintentionally. And I know that that's not your purpose.
Yeah, you're right. It is. And, you know, I'm just reading it. I read the original form as well. And, you know, that's what you're saying now that then that, so you help the youth football and the basketball. I mean, I didn't see anything that, you know, all I saw was the park, the pool, and, you know, the other stuff that goes through this council. The council should know all these things, and you know, I wouldn't have brought it up if I'd have known it.
Yes, sir.
And
all of those things did come.
What you're saying, I don't doubt you.
Yes, sir.
And but the thing of it is that though, if this council know as a whole, I mean, how many of us knew that we helped the basketball, we helped the football, give them funding, you know, to help them, you know, to help people that was in disarray.
Well, we all
had to back, when ARPA money came out, we as a council had to vote and approve everything we did. And they had to all be committed by the, and spent by what, the end of 26?
It has to be substantially obligated by the end of this year, so within a couple of weeks, and then it has to be spent by the, yes, sir.
So all this was set in motion 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah, right. It was before my time.
Right. But so we did as a council go through everything.
Yes, so you know where all the money went, who you helped the football team, you helped the basketball team.
It's all listed in the ARPA. Yeah, because everything had to be accounted for.
Yeah, okay, so.
And approved that it was part of the spending plan for the ARPA.
Well, I would like to see that then.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Very good.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman York?
Yes.
Cooper?
No.
Butler?
No.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streebing? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
T?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
10 yes.
10 yes, thank you. 11I is a resolution accepting a contract for CDBG Accessibility Rehab Project at 1028 North Logan Move to suspend three and ask for approval. Need a second.
Second.
Any questions? Coop?
Nope.
Nope. Anything, Logan, on that?
Nope, just another CDBG project that came in way over $20,000.
Yeah. That's why the pool is so much more. Everything comes in higher nowadays, doesn't it?
This is a much more rare project to come to council. This is not your standard home rehabilitation. This is actually a part of the allotted accessibility funds, which this is a big one. This is a complete reconfiguration of a first floor of a home to make it wheelchair accessible for their bathroom and shower, which is a struggle for this family right now. It is a wheelchair household that is not very accessible.
This is south of Fairchild, right? 1028?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. I think park starts 1100 block, I believe. Yeah. Okay, roll call please on 11I.
Alderman Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Hoare?
Yes.
Streeting? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
12 yes.
12 yes, thank you. Public Works, any items of information?
Not at this time.
Plenty of salt?
So far, so good.
Far so good, it's
Yep.
supposed to be 50
I
next
will
week.
say we've had more events. We've had more events before Christmas this year than my 8 years of being here so far. So I'm hopeful that means we get it out of the way early and we don't have any later on. But
Well, 47 on Christmas Day and 50 on the day after, so.
things are looking up.
All righty, Mayor, that concludes our report.
Thank you so much, Chairman Streebing, Chairman Purr. In the absence of Chairman Streebing, Vice Chairman Pickering will receive the Public Services Committee report.
Thank you, Mayor. 12A is a resolution approving the settlement agreement with Azavar Audit Solutions. At this time, I make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions?
Yeah, I got quite a few. Azvar, when did this agreement start?
2019.
Approximate or?
Under Comptroller Shelley Scott in, I believe, 2019 or 2020.
Was this council approved? I'm sure it was, wasn't it?
Yes.
Council approved. How much money has this firm brought the city of Danville?
About $250,000 so far, of which we've paid them like $110,000 or $12,000.
So the city's made $130,000.
Approximately.
We're not talking about how we're paying this thing either, are we? Was this a, 6-year contract, I assume, 5-year contract, or were they under contract for a certain amount of time?
I believe it was a 4-year contract because I asked the clerk to send me a copy of the original contract after this first came up. So based on what I read in the contract, it started in 2019 and it had an end date. I didn't see an actual end date, but it said made reference to 2023. So I assumed that it was supposed to end in 2023.
And they just found this last year or recently?
They found.
So it was supposed to end in 2023.
They found, if you recall the documents that we received, I don't know if they're in this packet or not, previously, there was a document that was dated 2023.
Why did it take so long to them to discover this error?
They were combing through multiple sources, so, the hotel motel tax, the liquor tax, all of those things, and this was the last one that they reviewed.
Doesn't make any sense. I think it was a screwy deal, and I still do, and I'm totally against all this. I just, now we're into a settlement, and we gotta approve it in 2 weeks, or they're gonna take us to court. Is that what I assume that too?
Yeah, to protect their claim for damages, I've been informed that should the matters not be resolved, they'll be prepared to file their suit on or before December 31st of this year. So a couple of weeks.
Well, I hope a proposal like this doesn't come up again in front of, especially with me on this council, because I'll never support it, and this is beyond belief, so. That's all I got to say. Go ahead.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have another question
Oh,
as well.
oh, I'm sorry.
Y'all kind of feel like Mr. Cooper, or Alderman Cooper. I mean, this is a surprise to me as well, you know, thinking we're gonna get sued. And this is at a last minute, they're kind of pushing it up on us. I mean, it seemed like 4 years ago there that we should have grabbed this. So these people, this avatar just out of the blue said that this is what we owe you. This is what we owe.
A lot less than what they said.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Lot less than what they
A
said.
lot less.
A lot less than what they say.
Mhm.
And so we actually owe them more, but
Yes.
this is what they're going to agree on that we have to pay.
Correct.
And this has been negotiated over the past couple of years with my predecessor as well. And what's being presented here, the proposal is for 1.385, and what they would make a claim for is maybe 4 times that amount.
And we're 100% sure we're at fault on all this. This just doesn't make any sense because we didn't charge some certain type of gas tax. It just.
If I could.
Oh.
Our previous comptroller, Scott, was a forensic accountant. She thought it'd be good to have, go through all of our finances and all of our income coming in to make sure, number one, we were collecting it correctly, and number two, all the ordinance and things were written correctly. So that's how they came into the picture. And going through the books and everything else, they did fine. That, yes, we could have been charging more for the gas. We could have been charging both A and B. The fact that we were only charging B is where A kicked in, and that all that money we lost since 2008 was calculated on the millions of dollars we had lost in revenue. Their contract was based on a percentage of what they found, even though it was never the intent of the ordinance in 2008 to collect both Part A and B on the motor fuel tax. So that's where the large numbers came from. That's also another reason for the ordinance we have coming up to clarify and put in language what we are doing with the motor fuel tax. So this doesn't come up again. This never would have came up again. I mean, the motor fuel tax, when it was passed in 2008, had an automatic renewal of 2% based on what the state set the rate at. And just automatically renewed every year. But the fact that this came up and it caused a need for us to look into the ordinance and clarify the ordinance and make sure nothing like this ever happens again. So, that's the reason for agreeing to this settlement. And as corporate counsel said, multiply that amount 4 to 5 times, and that is what they would be entitled to, or what they would go after. Could we fight it? Sure, we could fight it. Would we lose? Most likely we would lose. Because the language in our ordinance does not specify what part, A or B, or what chapter that we are basing the motor fuel tax on. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, also, Alderman O'Kane had asked, well, I think we should have a U of I professor or something look at this. So, former corporation counsel Jim Simon was until the semester before he left us, he was a U of I professor. His expertise was conflict resolution and settlements and negotiations. So, you have someone who not only practiced law for decades, but also who was a U of I professor who literally studied this and trained at one of the premier law schools in the entire country, who trained students on this, who that was his opinion. Then furthermore, you come along and have Corporation Counsel Parker, who has practiced various different parts of law than Jim, who also agrees. And you also have Assistant Corporation Dallenberg, who has reviewed different parts of law and practiced different parts of law, whose opinion this also is. Unfortunately, as we all know, the intent of a law does not matter. It is what does it say in black and white. You have to follow what it says in black and white. And that's what puts us at a great disadvantage here.
So,
Any other
Mr.
questions?
Chairman, I'm sorry.
Alderman T, Vice Mayor T.
I think one of the things, there's a lot about this that is troubling, disconcerting, a lot of other adjectives, adverbs I could use. One of the things that has not come up yet that I think is particularly troubling is that we're just now hearing about this, but this has been going on for a year. And the conversation that we had last week in closed session, because closed sessions can happen for the possibilities of potential legal filings or lawsuits, could have happened months ago. And to me, it feels like we're rushing to the settlement because there's a deadline, obviously, because they've been told that we would that they would file as of December 31st. I don't know what the delay was or why there was a delay, but I think a lot of people are uncomfortable because there's not been ample time given for us to get comfortable. And, you know, when we have contract negotiations as it relates to the union, we know those are coming well in advance. We sit in that room and we talk about them well in advance, and it may take weeks and it may take months, but we know that they're coming. We have time to sit there and ponder the information and go over it, to ask the questions and do a lot of things. And we're participants, even if we're not active participants at the table in the negotiations, we're participants in the process because we're an audience to be kept up to date with what's going on with the process. We were not an audience that was kept up to date with what's going on with this process, even though this process has been going on for a year. And had it not been for me looking and going, wait, that date says 2023, I would not have even known it had been going on for a year until obviously it came up in a session last week in Public Works. And so I think that to me is just as disconcerting as the fact that we're in the situation in the first place.
Vice Mayor, I would say, except that's not accurate. Comptroller Sweeten provided you all with the information in the first budget presentation. And in fact, we had a whole slide dedicated to that where she explained this because we did not want to blindside you all. So maybe
she wasn't here a year ago. I'm saying
I'm sorry if I may finish.
Go ahead.
In the budget presentation in October, she explained this very clearly, what was going on and why the gas tax needed to go up because of this issue. It was outlined. In fact, there was at least one slide, maybe two, out of a 10 or so page presentation. It wasn't very long, so substantial time was committed to explaining what was going on with this and why it was there and why it was being increased. So it was only at that time where they told us, listen, if we don't figure this out, we're going to sue you. And as soon as that came forward, we brought it forward with the budget. So there was not threats of suits until when you knew about it, about a few weeks before.
So then the potential for this though was known for a year, and then it came with the budget. Yes. So you're saying that the possibility of a suit was not just a suit, because obviously them saying threatening to sue versus the possibility of a suit, I think it's nuanced, but I think it's possibly two different things, because we obviously knew the agreement. I'm assuming that then we knew that this was a possibility if Corporation Counsel Simon, who's been gone since February or March, was in negotiation with them or having conversations with them back then, which is far before October, far before Comptroller Sweeten got here. There wouldn't be anything to negotiate if there wasn't possibility of a suit.
They never said, we will sue you. Jim said, if we don't get this worked out, we think that they will sue us.
So that is then possibility of a suit.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So there's always been a possibility of a lawsuit with any contract where there's disagreements. So there was no rush. This isn't a rush to get this settled. Azavar has a statutory deadline, okay? If they aren't happy with these negotiations, they can file suit. The reason, and it's pretty typical with lawsuits, is you come down to deadlines because both sides are wanting to get terms most agreeable to them. And that didn't happen for the city until the last 45 days or so, because they were wanting much more than the 1.385. And we finally, through negotiations, got it down to that amount. And that's when we decided to move forward with a resolution and present this to the council, to the committee.
Thank you for that explanation, and I appreciate the amount of work and effort that everybody put into it. It still does not negate the fact that we knew that we were over the barrel 4 to 5 times the amount, correct, Vice Chairman Purr? We knew this months ago, more than 3 months ago, or 2 months ago, because October was 2 months ago, because we knew it when Corporation Counsel Simon was here. Yet, we didn't hear about it until 2 months ago. That is my point. All of the other details have obviously been discussed ad nauseum. This particular point that I'm making tonight, I don't think that anybody has made yet. Thank you.
Alderman Butler?
Yes, I have a question as well. Yes, $1 million is $1 million that we could have put somewhere else. Now, moving forward, corporate counsel, I mean, do we have any other lawsuits against us that's gonna jump on us, do you know at this time that you know of?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
I mean, I wouldn't speak of those here in an open council meeting, but I can certainly advise you as to all the legal proceedings concerning the city at some point.
Okay, so what you're saying is that there might be.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not gonna comment here in an open meeting, but I'd be happy to make you aware of everything that's going on in the legal department, to the extent I can.
Yeah, okay, the reason why I asked is because this here came before the council, this lawsuit. And so I'm just concerned, man. I mean, while I'm here, I don't want to be going through this again.
Well, this proposal resolves this issue with Azavar and severs all any obligations by either party moving forward.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a kind of a couple. This dollar amount that we're looking at, is that the dollar amount for the finder's fee for what they found for us? Is that the reason we came to this amount?
Yes. It's based on different numbers that have been presented by them, findings, but their fee could possibly be much, much more, and this is the amount that we feel was best at this time.
Well, this sounds like a lot. This I thought I read or heard that their percentage for finding is like 30%. Is that what they go at?
45%.
It was 45%.
45? That's a lot, but I know they saved this money. I get it. Now, I guess my last question is, City of Danville, we pay our bills. So what accounts this money going to come out of to cover ASTAR?
I would defer to Comptroller Sweeten to answer that question.
We would pay for that out of local motor fuel tax collections.
Motor fuel.
Any other questions? Okay, Alderman O'Kane.
First off, I didn't ask for eyes of somebody who's been involved with it. I asked for eyes outside the city council, outside of the city to look at it. Sometimes you can look at something so long that you don't see the whole picture anymore. That's why I wanted outside eyes to see it. And especially at $1.3 million right now, or $5 million, or wherever the number is, you know, and for months and months and months, we didn't know about this. You know, this just, you know, I don't like things hidden from me. And if we heard in October, you dropped it in the same bucket as the budget and everything else, you know, so it didn't show up. I just, you know, this just, I don't like the deal. In fact, I don't think that we would have followed that tax rate on motor fuel tax and charged that much money to our constituents in this town. The rate's way high, a lot higher than anybody in the neighborhoods, in the other towns around us. Right now, we're still higher than everybody else, and they said we made a mistake and didn't charge enough.
That's correct.
We'll get into this in more detail, and yes, you're right, absolutely, our motor fuel tax is lower than most of the communities around us. I mean, higher than most of the communities around us. However, Champaign has an unspecified utility tax of 2.75%. Bloomington has a gas tax of 3.75%. Normal has one based on therms. Decatur has one of 4.5%. Pekin has one of 5%. And Kankakee has one of 5%, while we have 0.
And we're not driving our houses around.
And electric, based on kilowatt hours, Bloomington, Normal, Decatur, Pekin, and Kankakee all have a tax.
Well, that's an orange and an apple.
Also, Bloomington has a 3.75% tax on their water. Pekin and Kankakee have 5% taxes on their water. And we also have the third lowest property tax of all of these, and our property tax is a lot lower than many other communities. So my point being is that while our gas tax may be higher, nearly everything else is less or non-existent compared to those communities around us that are providing us with comparable numbers.
Any other questions? Roll call, Madam Clerk, please.
Alderman Butler?
No.
Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
No.
Iverson?
Yes.
Poor?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
No.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
No.
8 yes.
Thank you. 12B is a resolution approving the application to the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economical Opportunity, DCEO, for the Tourism Attraction Grant Program. At this time, I make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson? Wands?
Yes.
Bouchard?
Yes.
O'Kane?
Yes.
Iverson?
Yes.
Poor?
Yes.
Streaming? Pickering?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
12 yes.
Thank you. 12C is an ordinance amending Chapter 116 of the City Code pertaining to taxation. At this time, I make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions?
I kind of brought up this ordinance that we're talking about voting on tonight after we received the email on December 3rd with, the plan to go from 11.2 cents per gallon, for January through June of '25, up to 19.9 cents a gallon, by the end of December, or from July to, December of 2026. I could not, in good faith, raise the taxes 9 cents a gallon over a short period of time. That's when started digging in and looking at Part A and B of the motor fuel tax outlined by the Illinois Department of Revenue. Not knowing, because the language wasn't spelled out, what the heck part we were taxing on, whether it be Part A or Part B, even after talking with former staff on that it was Part B, there was nothing really to clarify that in the language. So just going off of Part A is when I threw together the spreadsheet showing, just based on Part A, what it should have been from 2008 to the current day in this proposal. And I talked before that the state gas tax on Part A only was 19 cents a gallon from 2008 till 2019, when it doubled, went from 19 cents to 38 cents when Governor Pritzker took office for his basically Build Illinois program with infrastructure and roads and bridges. Went up a little bit each year up till the latest release, which is now 47 cents a gallon. Based on the 2%, we basically went from our part of even 5 cents past in 2008, when we were only at 1 cent a gallon. We increased by another 4 cents to take care of infrastructure, roads in the city through the gas tax. And of course, at that same time, we were talking about utility tax and everything else, on gas, on water, on electric, and comparing what other communities were doing. And we felt, no, let's just, if we're using it for infrastructure, let's do it with what would produce money for infrastructure, roads and things, which was the gas tax. So basically, we went at 0.038 for years, or with my formula. Again, this is just based on Part A. If we would, and basically all you did was multiplied the state rate by 0.0002, by 2%, and then you would just add double their rate and put 2 zeros in front of it. So we went from 0.0038 to 0.0094, which, if we had only been using Part A, would have put us at 14.6 cents a gallon. This year, basically 3 cents more a gallon than what we're currently paying. We're paying 11.2 cents a gallon now. And then with an automatic 2% increase based on what the Department of Revenue levied as a motor fuel tax, Part A. Part B currently is 19.9 cents, or right close to that. So historically, that would have been that would be a 0.0038 if we were doing Part B. But it would only put us at about 12 cents a gallon, I think. So rather than doing the 9% increase, kind of came to a middle ground. Okay, let's just clarify the language. Even though Part A is a higher revenue generator, and the rate goes up, it would go up less than a penny a year. And there again, it depends on what the heck the state sets it at. They went from 19 to 38, and now they're at 47. So, but this kind of puts that, it clarifies, it's, what chapter in the Illinois compiled statutes it is, what section, what paragraph, and it sets it at 2% of Part A, basically. So that's kind of where this all came from. I know there was a lot of back and forth. What are we doing? Even after I heard that calls, why you propose to raise the gas 10 cents a gallon? No, I'm not. Here's what I propose. I even sent, here's what I sent to the council. Here's my Excel spreadsheet. Here's, the rates published by the state. So that's kind of where I came from. I mean, the number that I came up with was just based solely on Part A, if we had been doing that since 2008, and increased by 2% a year. So that's kind of what the ordinance is, but I know Vice Mayor Teague's been doing research as well on A and B. Like I say, if we were in the business of gas, it'd be 66 cents a gallon based on, I mean, they set for motor carriers and things like that. But that's kind of where we're at. It's not a 10 cent or a 9 cent increase. It's a little over about 3.5 cents. And then depending, next year, we'd be right back to the 2% annual increase based on what the Illinois Department of Revenue publishes each year.
So the bottom line is, right now, we're paying 11.2?
According to the Comptroller Sweeten's email she sent us, 0.112.
The current rate is actually 10.3. That was
10.3.
the predictive, what it would have been at the beginning.
So it
But
would've been
currently, we're
going
at
up.
10.3 cents.
So we've been going up to 11.2.
Okay.
So we're going up.
3 cents.
Okay, so about 3 cents? Okay, thank you.
That's
Any
all I
other-
have.
And Alderman Mons and Vice Mayor have.
Alderman Warren?
This is a little bit above my head, so I just kind of brought it down to me, okay? Living on a Social Security, what does that mean to my pocketbook, okay? And my constituents who are just about in the same condition in Ward 2 that I am. And a tank of gas, I drive my ward at least once a month, if not more. A tank of gas would cost me about 48 cents more. That would be about a week. I use about a tank a week. When I started with this, I was totally against any kind of raise. And then I try to think about what needs to be done within the city with this tax. I also thought about what does that do to my budget. And I can't, what can you buy for 48 cents? Can't even buy a candy bar for 48 cents. So I thought, well, I can do without a candy bar, or I can do without something else, but I can't do without gas. So I am going to, as much as I don't want to, I am going to agree to support this. Because 48 cents for a tank of gas for me to do my job and do it to what I feel is properly is a small sacrifice for me. Thank you.
Any other questions? Vice Mayor Teague?
Well, one point of clarification, because there was a table that I put together that that when I brought it up at last week's meeting, the mayor asked me to send to everybody, so I did. So you should have received it on Monday, because I actually hadn't finished editing it, and I didn't finish until Monday. But so what I had done was, in putting the table together, because I wanted to see like what Part A was and what Part B was, and then what the 2% were. We have been calculating only on Part B, not on Part A, and that's how. And so when there's a column in the table that I sent to everyone that had current city and it calculates up to 10.3 cents off of Part B only. Now, Part A is significantly more. So, as Vice Chairman Purr said, currently Part A is at 47 cents, and Part B is at 19.6 cents. So if we were to have done 2% of Part B, and we don't know what Part B is, I looked today to see if there was a new information bulletin for the rate that would start on January 1st, and there is not. So there is not, I could not find a published new rate for Part B. So we don't know what it will be, unless somebody else has some information that I don't have, but the Department of Revenue website did not have it. It's still significantly less. So 2% of, if we went by the last year, by this current year, 2024, 2% of the 47 cents is 0.0094, which gets added to what we have. If we went by 2% of Part B, which is 0.0039, which was what added, which was how we got to 10.3 cents. So we don't know right now. I looked in Section 2 trying to find a rate for 2025, and I didn't see that either when I was reading Section 2025 today to figure out what our rate might be for 2025. We don't know yet. So I just wanted to put that out there, that switching to Part A instead of Part B is significantly more. One of the questions that I have, because we're talking about this, and one of the things that is going to come from this is that 1 million plus as of our payment is whether or not once we pay as of our off, will we go back down? Or we will always just keep escalating it? Because eventually it's going to get to the point where we're like, especially if we're continuing since we're following Part A, or potentially following Part A, and Part A goes up significantly more than Part B does, you know, if they raise it from 47 cents to 55 cents or 65 cents, where you're adding a good penny plus every year as opposed to portions of a penny, we could get to the point where we, in 5 to 10 years, become, instead of 10 cents, now it's 20 cents. So I know that we're looking at, yes, this is what we're calculating now. We don't actually have a stop date for stopping these calculations. And I believe someone asked about reevaluating it every year. And I'm not on that page anymore.
It doesn't appear in there.
It doesn't appear in the ordinance for it to be reevaluated every year. So we're just going to continue to keep adding tax and adding tax and adding tax until somebody decides to bring it back up. I have a concern about that. I have a concern about saying, hey, well, we're just going to keep adding tax and adding tax without stopping it from, you know, after we pay off as of our in 3 years, that we could maybe go back down. So I have a concern about that also. So I think that these things need to be taken into consideration and maybe even possibly reworked or amended, because I don't like the idea of just continuing to add tax. And the last thing that I will say is I appreciate, one of the things that came up earlier is that we need to, someone came to the podium, I can't remember who, I would have to go back through my notes and see who said what, but somebody said that we need to, it was actually, I think, former Director Beef, we need to consider all of our citizens and not just ourselves and not just our situations. And I know of many of instances where I have gone to the gas station and pumped gas here in Danville, which is very rare, and I'll be honest and say that, because gas in Danville is high, and I probably will do it a lot less. And seeing that somebody pumped $5, which means that person was basically just getting enough gas to get across town. And I know that there are a lot of people in our city that are in that situation, that they're just putting in $5. A long time ago when I first started driving, and I won't say when that was, $5 in gas could last you a while.
That's a whole tank.
Yeah, you go.
Not that old, sir.
19 cents a gallon.
And money for a tank.
Gas.
I said when I started driving.
Oh.
But now $5, if I put $5 in, to be honest, I'm going to another gas station. I put enough to, and I'll be frank and say it. I put enough gas to get me outside the city of Danville where I can get gas cheaper. I have enough gas in my tank to say, you know what? Let me go to the gas station that's less than 2 miles from my house, because I happen to live near Public Works Building, and go to the gas corner, that's what I call it, at the corner of Voorhees and Bowman, to get enough gas to get out of the city of Danville so I can get gas where I want to buy gas at, where I know I can get it at least a dime, if not 20 cents, if not 40 cents cheaper. So I think that that's one of the things that we're going to butt up against when we add this. And I believe that somebody provided us with gas usage data. Thank you, because you know I love data. Our gas usage has gone down considerably this year. 25 versus 20, oh no, these are projections?
Yeah. No, those are actual so far.
So fiscal year 25, got you.
Yes, Vice Mayor, so this would be May 2024, June 24, July 2024, et cetera.
Gotcha.
That last column.
Thank you. So yes, the gas usage in our city has gone down considerably as compared to prior years. And I think it's going to go down even more. And I think, and you have a lot of people who aren't retired, who are commuting into Danville and also who are commuting out of Danville on a regular basis. And I guarantee you, even less of them will be buying gas in the city of Danville, unless, of course, they'll get $5 worth to be able to get enough gas to get out of the city of Danville.
Mayor?
Yes, I just wanted to go review this chart with you, if I may. If you look at the one that's double-sided, and it says municipal gas sales FY 2009 to 2025. The reason why it says that is because this actually went across 2 pages in my spreadsheet, but it's covering the entirety of that time. And what you'll see here, I want to first of all, sometimes I forget to acknowledge them, but I appreciate we have our accounts payable administrator Megan Mudd with us today, and also our deputy comptroller Kristen Landis. Kristen and her team provided most of this compilation, so I really appreciate you doing that for us as requested by Vice Mayor and the alderman. And what you see here is a trend. If you go on the first page and you start looking, of course we don't have much data in 2009 or 10, but then you can start seeing, and what's happening is you get some averages, right? And what you see is that we're averaging 1.2 in 2010, 1.2, almost 1.3 in 11, almost 1.2 in 12, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it continues and it continues and it continues, where we're averaging around 1.2 million gallons of gas a month that we're selling. But then what happens in 2020? COVID. The pandemic happens and it drops off substantially. And the thing is, we have never quite recovered from the COVID times. And so, I asked my team to put together, and we thought about and we compiled this, what are some of the other factors? Vice Mayor, I know data is important to you, and I know one thing you would agree with me on is you have to be careful about assessing causality. Well, saying because this happened, this is what happened. So because we raised our gas rate, this is what happened. Well, yes, certainly if we raise our gas rate, there are people that are going to buy elsewhere or consider buying elsewhere. That's absolutely true. But there are a number of other things that I think we need to think about. First of all, we had an almost 12% population decline over that time, and possibly more. So, that right there, you take 12% off of the top of 1.2 million, and you're looking at 100 and some odd thousand. So that puts us at about 1 million right there, just in population decline. Hybrid remote work more than quintupled, so more than 5 times. In 2010, 6.6% of workers were in hybrid or working fully remote. You fast forward to 2024, and 2020, almost 25% of people are working hybrid, part-time at home, part-time at work. And 14% of the population, so more than double of what we had of doing any kind of hybrid work, 14% are working fully remote. That means you have 30-some% of people who were driving previously every day to go back and forth from work who are not doing so now. Here locally, we have some major employers, Genpack, Blue Cross Blue Shield, much of CCMSI. So just amongst those employers alone, that's almost 1,000 people who were driving to work every day previously that aren't now. Not only that, but unfortunately, because of the closure of Quaker, and yes, some of those people are pre-employed at other places, but you have several hundred people who are not driving back and forth daily. Additionally, you have an 8-fold increase in the number of hybrid or electric cars from just less than 3% in 2008 to 21.2% in 2024. So almost a quarter of our cars are now hybrid or electric, meaning they're using a different power source, so they're not getting gas. So then you have those people who aren't buying gas. Not only that, but you have an almost 30% increase in fuel efficiency over that time, from just under 21 miles per gallon in 2008 to 26 gallons in 2022. And of course, as Vice Mayor said, we've had 4 large, conveniently located truck stops all within 5 miles. And I'm telling you, if I'm coming to work, I don't know about you all, 90% of the time, I shop where the gas is convenient for me. So I go to the gas station that's closest to my home. So now these people that are coming from Westville, Georgetown, et cetera, that only had one fuel station on the entire Route 1 on their side of the road from Westville to Danville now have this huge plaza that they're going to. And also there were 3 additional huge plazas that were built out in Oakwood. So people that are commuting back and forth, it's easier for them to hop off right there than to have to come into town. We only have one gas station that you don't have to come into town for, and that's off of Bowman Avenue. Most people who are coming to town for work are not coming into town off of Bowman Avenue. So it's a heck of a lot easier for them to pop off the highway and go to one of those stops. So yes, has increasing the fuel, the tax cost us some revenue? I'm sure it has. But there are many other things, I mean, a number of huge things that I've just mentioned to you that have contributed to that as well. So, you know, when we look at going from, you know, let's say 1.2 million gallons to 850 or 900,000 gallons, a lot of that is attributed just to those factors that I've mentioned to you. The other thing that I think that it's really important for us to consider is what we aren't doing. Unlike these other communities, we are not implementing a utility tax. I'm telling you, a utility tax would hurt a whole lot more people than a gas tax would by a lot. You look at this, as I mentioned earlier, but I think it's worth reiterating. Champaign has a 2.75 unspecified utility tax. Gas, Urbana and Champaign are the only ones that on this list that don't have a tax. Electric, Urbana and Champaign are the only ones besides us on here that don't have a tax. Bloomington, Pekin, and Kankakee also charge you a tax for your water. And the big thing that I would tell you is look at our property tax. If you look at our property tax compared to everyone else's, with the exception of Bloomington and Normal, it is substantially lower. I mean, we're talking drastically lower than this. And I want to point out to the public that yes, you say we're going to be charging people more for gas, and you're absolutely right. But what are we also doing? We are also lowering their property taxes. From last year alone, if we pass the tax levy that we proposed to you all tonight, that will be a 11.8% decrease from 2023, which was 1.91. And it would be a 26% decrease from 2019 when our tax rate was 228. So basically we'd be going from 228 on our property taxes to 168 on our property taxes. That's a 60-cent reduction. That is huge. And yes, certainly people complain about gas tax, but I know for you all, especially those of you who live in wards 5, 6, and 7 and represent those wards, I know your people probably complain to you more about their property taxes than they do anything else, because that's the biggest complaint that I get from people in this town is property taxes. When people talk about moving over to Indiana, they don't talk to me about a gas tax. They talk to me about their property tax. So it's important for us to keep that property tax low, especially to those who are paying the most. You know, we've been asked about which wards are paying the most. If you have common sense, you know which wards are paying the most. 5, 6, and 7, especially 6 and 7. That's where people are paying the most property taxes. What I love about this plan, I don't love to raise any tax. I don't like it at all, quite honestly. But a couple of things that I would say to you. Number one, if we're going to have to raise a tax, I would much rather that everyone that comes to Danville and buys gas help us pay it than putting it on the backs of our tax-paying homeowners here in town. Number one, I would much rather have people that come from Covington, that come from Bismarck, that come from Champaign to work in our community. I would much rather have them helping us pay our bills than to put that all on the backs of our taxpayers. And yes, I understand there are times in my life where even as an adult, I've only pumped a few gallons of gas because I know, because it's hard, because life is expensive. But what I would say to you is, as Alderwoman Munn said, you're talking about 50 cents or less a week. You're talking about $25 for the year. $25 or $26 you're talking about for the entire year. I can tell you, most people that I see that are pumping $5 and $10 and $15 of gas are coming out with cigarettes, or coming out with snacks, or candy. So a lot of times I think it has to be about priorities too. So all of that just to say, I understand. I don't like to raise any taxes at all either, but if we're gonna raise a tax, I want it to be one that everyone, including our visitors, pay. I do not want to put it on the backs of our tax-paying homeowners here in this town. That tax alone has driven a lot of people out of this community, and we need to do our best to keep that low.
I concur.
Alderman O'Kane?
Okay, I understand your point, but, you know, we got an ordinance in front of us that has no review. I'm ready to ask for a sunshine or some kind of 5-year review on it, because we've asked for it. There's no way of controlling it once it's gone. We can't even control what the state's gonna do. The state could change things. I don't like the way it's figured. We need to find something different than what the state does. They can escalate, they can change their rates, and that would artificially change us. I don't think that's right. And where on this ordinance does it say we're gonna just cover A? Does it say that anywhere? Or is this just talking like what we thought we did back in 2008 and said that it's only gonna be on B, but it's not, it was never written down?
What I really appreciated, and I believe our corporation counsel can speak to this more, is rather than referring to something which referred to something else, it pointed us directly to the ordinance, which says it's only A. No, I'll allow you to clarify that.
But our ordinance should say what we're gonna do, not going to the state of Illinois, and then that could change. They can change their laws. In fact, I'm almost ready to ask that every time that we pass an ordinance and it gets officially written, and before it goes in the books, we get an email so we can read that ordinance and see if it says what we voted on. Because undoubtedly, back in 2008, according to people that have talked to me, it wasn't written up the way that they thought they had voted on it. So I don't know if this has happened other times, but, you know, it just scares me that this could happen. Millions of dollars is gonna end up costing us, you know, it's gonna cost the people of the town more money to cover the problem.
Alderman, I understand your point, but what I would tell you is this. I learned from our previous comptrollers that you can't budget on hope and that there is no magic money.
I'm not budgeting on hope, but I want details on there. I want to know that it's going to get reviewed. I want to know what the state's going to do, and if there is a problem, if the state changes things, I want to know it ahead of time so we can change our rules and not have to wait until afterwards and find out that we have a problem.
Well, the thing is, we can change our ordinances at any time.
Well,
and what I would say, if I can finish, please. Thank you very much. What I would
talking for a long time. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm an elected official just as you, sir. So I'll have my say just as I respect yours. Absolutely. But what I would say to you is that I don't like a sunset clause. A review provision, sure. A sunset clause, no. And here's why. Because the bottom line is, you may never have we didn't have council members, including myself at times, who were courageous enough to raise rates when we should have, and that's why we have all the failing, collapsed infrastructure that we do in this community. That's why we have so many failing, collapsed streets and sewers and things like that. Because people, it's hard to raise money because I have to go to church and answer questions about why I voted to raise a tax or why I proposed raising a tax. I have to see these people at my nephew's games who are very unhappy with me. Mr. Mayor, you never voted for a tax increase. That's not true, by the way. Or a fee increase. That's not true either, by the way. But I was mindful of it. The difference between now and then is that at this point in time, you all have helped me make sure that we are as good of stewards as we can possibly be with the money that we have. It's not going wasteful. We're not having 20, 30, 50% change orders on projects that we're having to, now instead of $1 million, it's a 1.2, it's 1.1, $1.5 million. We're not doing that kind of stuff. And so a sunset clause puts you in a situation to fail because you don't know if councils of the future are going to be willing to have the courage to make the increases that they need to. I'll give you an example. Recently, we did a sewer fee increase. I think we increased it $1 a year for 5 years. Now, it's coming up again in the next couple of years. So my question then is, are we going to be brave enough at that time to raise the fees as we know that we need to, or are we not? If you put a sunset provision in there, you're exactly going to be facing that problem all the time. If you don't, then it gives you an opportunity to plan. And also, the other thing that we have to recall is that everything gets more expensive every year. So if we put some low formula in there, right now, former Director Aaron said that he needed $1 million. And guess what? This got them $1 million. And guess what? Today we're only get $1.2 million. And I can tell you, we're buying a heck of a lot less road now for $1.2 million than we were in 2008. But we're still only getting that kind of money. And so what I would say is I am opposed against a sunset clause on here. I wouldn't be against a review. That's something that we have to do every year anyways when we propose the budget. That's something that we have to do. I would not be opposed to that. But
how do we get this so that we know that it is reviewed?
Can I read the
Chairman?
Section 2 of the motor fuel tax law, which imposes a tax per gallon on all motor fuel used in motor vehicles operated on Illinois public highways and in recreational type watercraft operated on Illinois waters, is effective July 1st, 2024, Part A rate. So that's when they publish the rates for Part A. Okay, Part B is they take the total number of gallons
Can't the
average.
city put it on their paper?
It's on here. It's right here, C.
It's not on here.
AC, yes it is.
It says when they start, it doesn't say that.
And after January, the rate of tax imposed shall be equal, increase on January 1st feature by the amount per gallon equal to 2% of the rate established by the Illinois Department of Revenue in effect on January 1st of each year, in accordance with the terms and provisions of Illinois Compiled Statute, Chapter 35, Act 505-2. That's what I just read.
Part A and Part B are not in 2. Part A and Part B are in 13A. 2 is stated rates. The 2 rate is not stated yet for 2025. We do not know what the rate is.
Part B rate, because they take the last 12.
A and B is not in Section 2.
But B is figured by taking the total average price of the gallons of gas for the previous 12 months, multiplying it by 6.25%, and that establishes the rate.
The person at the Department of Revenue told me that those are 2 different things. Section 2 is motor fuel tax. A and B is use tax. A and B does not apply. Not in Section 2.
Well, I'm just
We're just using the formula.
It's not in, but we're saying we're following Section 2. Section 2 does not have the formula. Section 2 has specifically stated rates. It says, and it goes all the way back, and it says, I've read it multiple times, and then I called the Department of Revenue to get clarification. And I talked to the person in the motor fuel tax division. That's why I called the Department of Revenue, because I did not want to assume that, I did not want to base my decision based on assumptions that we're making. I read Section 2, and then I called and asked for the people who are actually implementing Section 2 what it was. And what she told me was that I was confusing 2 different things. That's why I'm clarifying for everybody else. That is the email that she sent me that I sent to everybody else. Section 13A, which provides for A and B, is where you have an A rate and a B rate. And when you look at what A rate refers back to Section 2. Section 2 is where the motor fuel tax rate is, and the rates are specified in Section 2. And it goes into, on January 1st, 2009, the rate is this. On January whatever, and it goes through all of the dates. And those dates match what's in the table that multiple people have put together. But there is no published rate yet for Part A or for Section 2. But Part A uses the rate in Section 2, which is why we had confusion in the first place. But that was in 13A. 13A refers back to Section 2. Section 2 does not have an A or B in it. Not the Part A versus Part B rate.
Alderman Iverson? I don't know where to start. We approved the ASVAR thing today, but as I read it, it does not say we have to pass a motor fuel tax to pay for it. We can pay for it other monies, surplus funds, whatever. So we don't need to do the motor fuel tax to pay ASVAR's money. Going into tonight, I thought, this is lovely. I love the form. It's so much simpler than what we've had, which was so confusing and didn't make a lot of sense. After listening tonight, maybe it's not as clear as we thought it was, and it's grasping the wrong straws. So maybe we should be looking at that again. Now, the 14 cents per gallon, I thought was too high. We should be more like 2-cent increase rather than a 4-cent increase. But I could have gone along with that even, except for what we've been discussing in the last few minutes about the annual amount of money. There's an increase built in every year on this. Now, I know the mayor says that city councils in the future may not be brave enough to do what they have to do. Well, isn't that the city council's damn job to take those things and show whether they're brave enough or not? I don't agree with 90% of what just got elected in the last election, but that's the people who now have the controls, and we have to do what we can with it. It's the same way with this. We're going to have to every year at least review it. I don't think we should have it in there at all. The second part of that, besides it being lazy, and it's our job to see whether they should increase every year, is we don't know what it's going to be. 2% of what? The government is making the numbers. 2% could be next to nothing, as most years. It has been very tiny amounts, but there's a couple of years in there where the governor jumped it a lot, and we could be influenced by that. So I think we need to get rid of the automatic, make it a review at least. I'd go for sunset clause. I'm the one who got the sunset clause on the sewer too. It's just something I believe in, that laws are made to be reviewed and changed as time goes by. And if we make things automatic, then we're not going to ever do what should be our job. I wouldn't be opposed to us. I know the mayor wants a budget by the end of the month. I wouldn't be opposed to this being looked at again. We seem to have some concerns about the language once again. So at this point, I like the idea of making it simple, but it doesn't look like we've made that simple.
It does make it simple. What I would say is we could simply add a section D that says this provision or this ordinance shall reviewed annually as part of the budgetary process to make sure that this ordinance shall be reviewed annually by the city council during the budgetary process to ensure compliance. The other thing that I would say is we have to give the gas stations, we have to send them a letter telling them what the tax is going to be in January 1st right now. So that's the other thing that we are pushing up against.
But how can we do that if we don't know the rate?
We do know the rate.
There's a published rate for as of January 1st?
It's whatever was passed in July. It says what is the rate as of January 1st.
Oh, so then we would just use the 47 cents.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I have a question around the budget piece on this, because I noticed that the motor fuel tax line item is unchanged. It's the same as it was last year. It's 1.2 million in expenses. I just pulled up last year's budget to double check.
That's because part of there will be a portion that's going to ASVAR that's in the finance budget.
Well, there's
But-
also, if the higher rate but lower usage, that would still come to around the same number. Also, when I was asked to review and adjust the budget again, I lowered the number because I was given the impression that the gas number would, or the tax number would be lowering. So if anything, it's under budgeted. It's an under budgeted revenue, so we would just have more money to do more projects.
But the expense line is the part that I'm saying is not changed, not the revenue.
Right, because the same amount of revenue will then be used to pay as of our and do projects.
Okay.
So would, it seems as though someone would be making a, oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
So then so the amount, what is the amount that we're paying as of our next year?
$135,000.
Okay, and so then the difference is 190,000? So you said it's 135?
Yes.
So then where's the rest of the money going? Because if it's not going to additional increase or inflation for projects and for roads, because we've got 1.2 million budgeted for expenses. We had 1.2 million budgeted last year for expenses.
We have to make the payment to Azavar, the
Right,
additional
but
revenue.
there's a difference. She said it's 135,000. I can't see. 1.39 minus 1.2 leaves us with 190,000. If we're paying Azavar 135, I don't remember.
So that's
if I printed that budget
$55,000
page.
in
Well,
revenue.
Where's the rest of it going? I don't think I printed that page.
It would be going for additional road work.
And then, since we're on the subject, I didn't write that page number down.
I'm sorry, if we can make sure that we not conflate anything with the gas tax at this time.
I'm talking about the gas tax.
Okay.
Since we're on the subject of motor fuel tax, what I wanted to also know is how much do we have coming in? I know I sent you an email on it. I know you sent me an email back right before the meeting. I think I printed it, but I don't recall I'm still not clear on the answer to the question, because the audit versus the budget, there's a $500,000 difference in terms of what's coming in.
As I said on my note, I didn't account for the savings account when I gave you when I put in the initial fund balance. I've now added that $501,000 and it's listed now.
So it's on the,
So it's on the fund balance page, yes.
It's on the funds balance page.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So then we have, starting off,
If you're looking at motor fuel tax, that's different than local motor fuel tax. The motor fuel tax funds are frozen by the state currently, pending the audits back to the 1990 or the 2000s projects. So we can't spend any motor fuel tax money. Everything being discussed now is local motor fuel tax, which falls into Fund 107.
oh, so under infrastructure development.
Right.
Correct.
That's right.
Which is what was set up as in 2000.
Okay.
It seems as though I hear from Vice Chairman Iverson that you would like to consider an amendment. I might propose just a rough draft of. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderwoman Ludwig.
Oh, I would just like to make a motion for including the provision for review per your Mayor Williams' suggestion under A1D.
If we added thank you, Alderwoman Ludwig, for clarification. So I would recommend rough language as to this ordinance shall be reviewed annually by the city council, shall be reviewed annually by the city council during the budgetary process. Is that
That is the motion that I'm making.
Okay, we need a second. Is there a second?
Does that mean we get reported to?
Yeah,
We get a paper report?
We set the price.
If that's true, I'll second it.
But if it just comes with the rest of the budget, which it basically does now, in a way, we see what the motor fuel tax is.
Currently, the tax increase would not be included in the budget as a specific item, but we can call it out as a specific item going forward.
and we'd have to vote to stop it if we didn't want it.
Tell me how many times that's been done. Never,
We did-
probably.
no, we-
So I think this is a waste.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do this, we need to cap it. That's all
Well,
there is to
Sunset
it, because
would-
you're gonna tell me we're gonna review the tax and we're gonna do away with it. I'd like to see who'd vote for
There's
that.
been a motion and a second
Right.
as to adding, this ordinance shall be reviewed annually during the budgetary process by the city council.
Yes, we vote, yeah,
On
we'll,
the-
vote
on the amendment.
on the amendment. We'll vote on the amendment first. Roll call, Madam President, Madam Chairman. Clerk?
Alderman Wands,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
If it said sunset, I would have gone for it, so, no.
Hoare,
No.
Streebing, Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
No.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Nope.
Butler,
No.
Wilson. 7 yes.
7 yes, the amendment carries.
Okay, any more,
Point of order. Takes 8.
No, it doesn't.
Not when you only got
Majority of
12
quorum,
people, yeah.
Majority of this group right here. It's not based on the 14 aldermen anymore. Based on the number here.
Since the state ordinance says it,
That's our,
the state ordinance says it takes 8 votes for this council to pass anything.
There's just,
I'll be writing the
Disagreement.
the Attorney General.
well, you
and
should certainly do so. I would encourage that.
we've been
okay,
told by two
we
different
will go
people.
back now to 12D, amending chapter 116 of the city code pertaining to taxation with, along
And
with
if there's
the,
any confusion, I will cast the 8th vote, an affirming vote, to make it clear. There you go.
But I thought you only cast when it's a tie.
That's
Probably a tie. If he's going by 14 aldermen, it's 7, that'd be 7.
But it's not
there
7-7. It was
Going
7-5.
7-5.
I can cast the affirmative vote, but either way, the amendment passes, so.
okay, we're going back to 12C, ordinance amending chapter 116 of the city code pertaining to taxation along with the amendment. At this time, I would make a motion to dispense with the reading and ask for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
No, you can have discussion.
Oh, discussion, I'm
Because, no,
sorry.
You've
I
added,
thought we-
you've added something.
I'm sorry, yes, we have to have discussion.
There's nothing set in stone that says it has to be 2%.
It says right there.
No, I mean, if it could be 1%. It doesn't have to be 2%. I mean,
Are you
You mean-
proposing that change?
no, I'm just saying that's.
You mean when
since-
it's reviewed?
Since we're going at a higher rate based on Part A, a 1% would do,
And we would know that in July of every year, so we would have that information prior to coming into this, before budget sessions.
so I mean, that's just food for thought. I mean,
Right.
I'm
Any
not
other,
making that, I'm not making
I'm
that
sorry.
amendment, but I'm just saying that's a possibility.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
I've got a few since you've been avoiding
Okay.
me here most of the evenings.
I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Serious?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm
Serious.
sorry, John. Alderman Cooper.
Okay, this ASBAR deal, you're increasing it 2%, right?
No, we're just clarifying the ordinance on what,
No, I'm talking about, we're voting on the ordinance now.
well, the ordinance has always been in place. All we're doing is clarifying the ordinance. It's always been 4 or 2%. I'm just saying we go back to Part A from the inception in 2008, calculating 2% a year increase gets us to 14 point something cents.
Is that an annual increase or?
It's 2% annually as written in the ordinance from 2008.
And all this money that we're going to increase, it's going straight to ASBAR
No.
probably then, isn't it?
No,
Well, yeah, it is.
no.
Some of it is.
ASVAR's payments over a period of years, period of time. So the increase in the revenue will still go to benefit of the motor fuel tax, less the payment to ASVAR, which this year is
130,000.
135.
135, so the remainder is new revenue in the motor fuel, or the infrastructure development fund, because it's not motor fuel tax money, it's infrastructure development fund.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee you right now, it's gonna be a tax that's never gonna go away. And we need to find ways to start saving money for the people, not, you know, we keep going after them. You did a sewer raise, what, 5 years ago? More power to you. We just went after the sales tax, more power to you. I don't want any part of it. Going after the gas tax, nope. So we've got to find ways to start saving the public, and we're not doing it.
Except that we are by a 60-cent property tax decrease.
And and we're not including the public pension fee. I'm sure these other towns don't have that. I'm sure we got a healthy
Actually,
fee.
several of them do.
Well, they may or may not. I mean, we do. I mean, we keep adding it, and it's, if you really want to get to it, it's probably another $80 a month just to live here. So you can add that $80 a month to the property tax, and now we're talking.
As she just described for you, it's 50 cents a week. That's hardly $80 a month.
Yeah, and then let's just add the tax.
Alderman York, you had your hand up?
I don't know if it's relevant, but I was gonna say, you haven't seen anything yet. We still gotta cover $400 million worth of infrastructure for the sewer system. So we're gonna have to come up with that money somewhere. So, you know, well, you're not gonna be able to at this point because of the previous city councils failed to address those issues when they needed to. And that's what Mayor Williams has been explaining, is that we have to be able to make these tough decisions, because you haven't seen anything yet, is what I'm saying, because we've got to come up with that money somewhere down the line. So I'm against increasing taxes as well, and I hate this. But we're trying to dig ourselves out of a hole that we didn't create, right? So.
Any other questions? Discussions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Pritchard.
No.
O'Kane.
No.
Iverson.
No.
Hoare.
Yes.
Streebing. Pickering.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague. No. Williams.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Cooper.
No.
Butler.
No.
Wilson. Wands.
Yes.
6 yes.
It is a tie, and I know for certain I can vote in a tie. I will cast a yes vote in the affirming.
Another point of order that takes 8.
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
Under Robert's rules, can I ask for a short recess?
Alderman, would it be all right if we finish a report and then recess before we get into the
Yes.
budget?
I just have,
I
I just have 2 more, I have items of information.
Alderman, would that be acceptable to you?
Yes. Okay. Items of information, anyone public safety, public service, I'm sorry, have any information? Okay. At this time, we will not be having the meeting December the 24th because of Christmas Eve. So I'm assuming our next,
You gotta follow the state statute. You must meet on the 4th Tuesday at 6 o'clock in these chambers. Doesn't
Okay.
matter if it's holiday or
I'll
not.
see you somewhere. Okay, so that would conclude my report, but we will be meeting here on the 7th for a full council, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Pickering. At this time, I would entertain a motion to recess for 10 minutes before we
So
we
moved.
proceed.
Second.
All those in favor, please, I have to have a voice vote, don't I?
Voice vote. Did
All
we
those
get a
in-
motion and second, or?
Yes, it was motioned by Alderman Ludwig, seconded by Vice Chairman Pickering.
Or okay.
Or okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We are
Aye.
adjourned.
Aye.
We will resume at 8:50. time, we will resume our meeting. Madam Clerk, we will resume our meeting at 8:50 as outlined. Madam Clerk, do I have to have a motion to return or no?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to be sure. At this time, you have before you item 13A, an ordinance approving the,
Did you clarify, didn't he want to go, did you get clarification
What?
on your Robert's Rules thing?
oh, no, he wanted to,
He was looking for a potty break.
Oh.
that's what,
Okay,
he was
well,
being,
that's-
he was polite,
That
he
was
was
a
politely
code one.
saying, I need a break.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I was always told
That's, you're right.
you cannot
You were
stop me
right.
on that one.
I can't. That's why I was like, can you give us 2 minutes? At this time, we have before you item 13A, an ordinance approving the budget for fiscal year 25-26. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or debate?
No.
Vice Mayor Teague.
Oh.
Okay, so, because I need so I sent, just for everybody else's sake. So last night, I sent an email to the comptroller with a number of questions because at the meeting last week, she had provided information on different things in terms of where to look for specific things. So one of the things that she had said was that the numbers on the funds balance page are coming from the funds pages. So I sent her an email with some specific questions late last night because I spent hours on this yesterday. Looking at some specific things. She emailed me back today shortly before the meeting. Obviously, I didn't have time to email her back and also make the meeting on time, so I'm asking the questions, my follow-up questions now. So, on the funds balance page, one of the questions I had sent was around the $200,000 of interest because it was the same as the prior month. And then when she said, well, the numbers comes from the individual fund pages, when I looked at the individual fund page for flexible spending, which is page 109, I printed the page. I'm sorry, wrong thing. ARPA, we're talking about ARPA. I got two different things. ARPA, which is page, did I print that one? I don't think I printed that, but I wrote page numbers. ARPA, which is 87. The interest on page 87 was $25,000. Okay, so your email said, so I said, okay, page 89 says $25,000 for interest income. Funds balance says $200,000 for interest income. Your response says formula error should have been pulling from column N instead of L. Well, I don't know which one is N and which one is L, so I don't know which one is right. So which one is right? Is it the 25,000 or 200?
It's the 25,000 as is on the fund sheet, as I said, that I was pulling the wrong amount over. Because the next item that you're gonna go to was one where it was right on the fund balance page, and I clarified that it was right on the fund balance page.
Okay, so I'm still, because is it the 25,000 that's right or the 200 that's right?
25,000 is correct, as is listed in the budget.
But but on the funds balance page.
On the
is
funds balance
incorrect.
page, there was yes, there was a formula error.
Okay, thank you.
As you called out in your email, there were a few of those.
Yeah, I was just looking for clarification. Thank you. So then, I think the other ones are clear to me that the answer, because I didn't know what N versus L was because I don't see the Excel. I just know that one of these was wrong. Okay, so then on the next question I had was related to Fund 503, which was flexible spending, and so, which is on page 109, which I have printed. So it shows that, and one of the reasons why I looked at a lot of different numbers. So I was looking at things that when we talked about it last week, one of the things that I had brought up was all of the balances that have, all of the funds that have starting balances that were negative, and then the negatives were carrying forward. Well, I saw one of them had changed between revisions 3 and 4, but not all of them had changed. And since the answer to my question was look at the funds pages, I went to look at the funds pages because that was the answer to the question when I asked about it last week. So, which led me to additional questions. So, when we talked about flex spending last week and we said that flex spending came in with a negative, started off with a negative balance, and then I went and looked at the funds page, it had different actuals. So,
yes, as I stated in the email, the actuals had not been updated on the budget tab. So the actual budget for the flex, the actual spend had not been updated on the 23-24 year, which is why it was wrong on the funds balance tab. So the actuals for 23-24 hadn't been updated for the spend. As I stated in my email, when I started like middle of the budget season, but was still at the beginning of the work, and I probably didn't put enough effort into the 23-24 actual information as that year was already closed, and I was trying to get a good budget forward for 25-26. So hopefully I'll have enough time next year to get the whole year, the actuals for the previous year in before I get the new year rolling. But that a lot of the things you pointed out were 23-24 like formula issues or actual issues that I made assumptions were correct on the file, and that's on me.
and that's understandable, right? You started off with picking up work from someplace else, not knowing what was done and what wasn't done. I think the bigger concern for me is, well, one of the things that we are responsible with is looking at this budget and saying we approve it, and part of that is also then understanding how much money each of these funds starts with. So like, for example, with the motor fuel tax, which now I understand is not local motor fuel tax, which I did not know until I asked the question. And that's really, local is really going into infrastructure development. But like with motor fuel tax, there's a discrepancy between, and this is different, this is, I'm out of order in terms of, I'm going out of order in terms of the order in which things are in my email. It's, the fund balance on here is 2.9 million. The fund balance from the audit, because the audit was approved in August, which is, I think, shortly after you started.
Correct.
Is 3.4 million. So it looks like we have an extra $500,000, which I'm like, well, you know, when we start talking about, when the budget first came up, one of the things was we have to cut certain things. We got to find money in other places. And I'm looking at these numbers going, okay, well, and this is just me being logical. Well, if 2024 is the unaudited balance, and we made a note to say that it was the unaudited balance, well, 2023 should be the audited balances. So when I saw differences in numbers between different pages, I thought, well, one of these might be wrong. I don't know which one this is, and I can't call anybody to ask them at 9 o'clock at night. So let me go and look at the audit, because maybe it's just a typo. Maybe there's an explanation, because there's other things that didn't match that I actually found a logical explanation to. So I went and looked at the audit. Well, the audit has a completely different number. So now there's 3 different numbers. You have the audit number, you have the number that's on the fund balance page, you have the number that's on the funds page. So I say all that to say, we are tasked with approving a budget for which some of the numbers that are starting balances might not necessarily actually be the most up-to-date or accurate numbers, because I don't know, and I don't remember reading the answer to, I know you probably answered it, I got the email at 5:37, so I didn't read the answers to all the questions. I don't know where the numbers come from on the funds balance where we start, but those numbers carry all the way across. So if you have an extra $500,000 somewhere and it's not on the paper, then we could have maybe made some other decisions about certain things, because one of the things that came up before the grocery tax was, well, we might have to, now we've already approved the grocery tax, but all of this came at the same time. So one of the things that came up then was, we gotta find extra money for police cars and mowing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we gotta find extra money for police cars and mowing. Well, if there's a $500,000 discrepancy between the audit number and the funds balance number on here, do we still have that $500,000 somewhere? Maybe that $500,000 could have been used to pay for the police cars and mowing instead of the grocery tax. And that's just me looking at the numbers as I was instructed to do, to look at the fund sheet, compare them to the funds balance, because that's where they come from. So I'm just going through looking at numbers going, well, this number is different. Well, this number is different. And eventually I just stopped looking because I kept finding things that now I feel like I'm working on my own budget, right? So, and like I said, there's other things that I found logical explanations for. For example, and I'll give you one that's huge, and I didn't have to call anybody because I found the answer myself, which was the estimated receipts for the general fund is $37.1 million. But if you go to the chart for general fund, it says 31.896. And I'm like, well, why is this different? And so I did the math and I said, oh, the difference, and I saw the number, $5,269,095. So then I searched the entire document for that number so I could find it. And then I found it and I went, oh, okay, this makes sense. Because all I'm really trying to do is make sense of this so that when I vote, I am voting based on information that I understand and that makes sense. There's lots of things that still don't necessarily make sense. So, the one question that I do have that I don't know the answer to because I didn't get a chance to read the email, which is, so the funds balance column, which is a starting balance that's going all the way across for all of our funds, that's on the funds balance page for April 30th, 23, where are those numbers coming from?
As I stated in the email, they come from
Ma'am,
our
I didn't get a chance
ledger.
to read the email. You sent it at 5:37. Please, yes, thank you. Go ahead.
As I said, they came from our general ledger accounts.
So is that reflective of the audited number? Like, does a general ledger account get changed as a result of the audit or no?
Yes.
So then why doesn't the general ledger account match the audit?
Again, maybe I failed to update the line. And you've called out several places. I failed, so give me one more, please. You can send me your questions and I'll answer them when I return from my bereavement leave.
And I am sorry for your loss.
Again, you can send me your questions in the email and I will answer them after my bereavement leave.
Okay.
Is there any other further discussion or debate on the budget? I'm going to ask you to support the budget. It's something that we've worked hard on. Comptroller Sweeten has been thrown literally into the fire, not in the frying pan, into the fire, and has done an amazing job considering everything. Working on 2 budgets simultaneously, having to report all the ciphers for those years, having to do all of our grant reporting, and also having to try to do a budget from scratch in a very, very short amount of time. I understand that there are some small things that need to be addressed, what I will say is I'm very proud of the work that you have done. I know it's been hard and overwhelming, and I think from what I've heard from most of you is that this is a good budget. It's a sound budget. It's been worked through very thoroughly, and I appreciate everyone's work on it. I appreciate all the department and division heads. I appreciate Treasurer Herron and all of our staff. Everyone works so hard on this. I appreciate it. I think it's a good budget. It's a sound budget. And what I really appreciate about the budget is that we're going to be doing a lot of good things for our people in their neighborhoods, which I think they've waited for a long time, particularly at some of our parks that have, they've been begging us for decades. And so I hope that you will be able to support this budget. And this time I would.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
You did not fail.
So do not take my questions as
No,
me.
you've
Let me
pointed
finish.
out- you
Let me
have pointed
finish,
out
please.
Hundreds of typos, formula issues. I'm like all of the things. I worked very hard on giving you a substantive budget for the important things. What we're moving forward with. Yes, there are some issues on the 23-24 stuff. You're right. Everything you've pointed to me, you're right. It was a typo. It's a formula, whatever. But I worked really hard to make sure the information for 25-26 was accurate. I worked very hard to make sure that the budget going forward would be good, and that what we had planned for next year would be good, and the spend made sense. I worked very hard with these individuals to make sure that their needs were met and that the city's needs were met. And I did that for next year because I thought that's what was important, making sure that next year we're in good shape. So I'm sorry that I have typos in 23 and 24, but that year's behind us. I was looking forward to what we need to do next year. And those numbers I will stand by.
So I appreciate the work that you put forward, and I was actually about to give you a compliment and say, and I'll repeat, you did not fail. I've never said that you failed. The reason why I look backwards is because you have to have good numbers and good foundation coming in to know the numbers going forward. Because if we start with a negative $100,000 and then we spend another $400,000, then you can't spend from zero. And we have to be able to have that baseline to be able to add to whatever it is that we're adding to. If not, then all the decisions we make might be faulty. But again, I'm going to say, and I'm gonna add to it, this is not and I said this originally the first time I brought up questions, this is not an implication of you or your work or your effort. You did not fail. I personally do not like the word fail, and I do not like people attributing failure to themselves. So if you were a person that I was coaching, I would tell you that you did not fail, because people don't fail. We make mistakes. We have opportunities to grow. We have things that we can change and do better the next time, but we never fail. Now let me also add this. The reason why I do this is because this is what I do in my own business. I make mistakes on budgets all the time. I have people check my work all the time. I'm like, go through this, see where I messed up, see where I screwed up. Why? Because I want it to be right, because I strive for excellence, and I want the city to be excellent. Now, obviously, you and the rest of the staff put forth a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of work. But it's also my job and my responsibility as an elected official to look through everything to make sure that I understand it. So everything, please let me finish talking. Everything that I'm doing is not about you. I question everything all the time, including my own stuff. I've screwed up my own budgets all the time. This is why I ask questions, because I question my own self, because I strive for excellence, and I want for the city to have excellence. And I'm not saying that you did anything wrong. This is not personal. None of it is ever personal, not with me. Maybe with other people, but not with me. I ask questions. You can ask your predecessor. I asked her questions too. You can ask our former comptroller who does my books. I ask her questions all the time, because this is what I do, because I want to understand. Period. I just want to understand. Sometimes, I spend hours on this myself, and I don't get paid except for $300 a month. I spent hours on this myself to make sure I understood. And when I didn't understand, then I went to the person who has answers to the questions. You explained the motor fuel thing. That is not the motor fuel tax. It is something else. I didn't know that. How would I know that unless you told me? I have to come to the person who did the work to get the explanation. When you explain to me, then I go look where you told me to go look. And then I come to you and I ask you questions again. That's all this is. That is all this is. Me getting an understanding, and then me hoping that the city that the city has met a standard of excellence so that I can vote based on that standard. That's all this is.
I appreciate your explanation, and all I would say is that sometimes the way the questioning is done, we've talked a little bit about that before.
We're not going to get into, Mayor, talking about how people operate and do things, because the same could be said about you. I do not do that in a public forum, and I do not appreciate you doing that in a public forum with me.
Well, as long as you chastise my staff, I've got this. As long as you chastise my staff like they're children in a public forum, I will address you.
I have not chastised anybody. I just told her she did not fail. And I told her that this was not about her.
Well, thank you. Again, I would just say I believe we have a good budget, and I would ask you to support it. Yes, Vice Chairman.
I just wanted to say, I think it's a really good budget. I especially like the long-range plans. I think a lot of work has gone into it. It looks really good. Unfortunately, I think I'd be a hypocrite after leading the charge against the grocery tax and the fuel tax to vote in favor of it. And that's the only reason I'm voting no. 'Cause overall, I think it's a great budget, but it's based on two things which I personally opposed and said I opposed, and I would hate to go back on that now.
All I would ask you to consider, Vice Chairman, is that those are two small things out of $70 million. You're looking at a couple of $100,000 out of $70 million, and if the rest of it is great, I would hate to throw the baby out with the bathwater just because there were two parts that you don't like. But I understand your point. I understand completely. But given that 98% of it is excellent, I hope that you wouldn't throw the 98% out because of the 2% that you don't agree with. But I understand. I would.
You know, and I support the budget too. The only thing I don't support, and I said it last year, so I'm going to say it again this year, I'll be a no. I think supporting this budget, supporting the city operating and owning that liquor license, and that is a concern of mine. And I understand where you're coming from, but you've got to understand where I'm coming from too, because I think we're competing against businesses with that, and I think that's wrong. And other than that, Ms. Sweeten, you did a good job. So, but I want everybody to know where I'm coming from. I'll be a no.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Chairman Poor,
Yes.
Chairman Streebing, Alderman Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
No.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
No.
Butler,
No.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
No.
Iverson,
What the hell's the vote?
On the budget,
I know, but what's the number now? Have we got 6?
we're at 7.
So it's passed. Okay, then I can say no. If it's gonna be, if that was gonna be the deciding vote, I would have gone the other way.
7 yes.
By a vote of 7 to 5, the motion carries. Thank you very much. At this time, you have before you item 14. If there be no objection, I would entertain the motion to accept items 14A through G altogether. This is regarding the levy. Item A is an ordinance approving 2024 tax levy. Item B is an ordinance abating part of the 2024 tax levy infrastructure development improvement program series 2019. Item C is an ordinance abating part of the 2024 tax levy capital improvements fund series 2019. Item D is an ordinance abating part of the 2024 tax levy community reinvestment fund series 2019. Item E is ordinance establishing the budget for the city of Danville, Illinois Special Service Area Number 1 for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2026. Item F is an ordinance approving tax levy and assessment of taxes and for Special Service Area Number 1. Item G is an ordinance approving tax levy and extending a special tax within Special Service Area Number 2 expanded. Is there a motion to approve items 14A through G?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or debate on the tax levy? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Pickering,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Wilson, Wands,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Poor,
Yes.
Streaming, 12 yes.
12 yes, the motion carries. Are there any items of information for the good of the cause?
Mayor, I just have a question. It was brought up about, city county, portions of the Breezy Tower demo. That's already solved and everything else, right? There's no backing out by any entities.
The county still has to determine their funding source, but so far there has been, thankfully, no retraction. of agreement. If there were, unfortunately, we'd have to resolve that in court.
Yeah. But there was the previous administration, Mr. Vaughn, there, Larry, everybody else met for almost 2 years and had it all resolved and was already approved once by the county board to move forward, right?
Yes, they did approve the intergovernmental agreement, so it has been approved, yes, sir.
They just need to come up with a funding source.
That is correct.
That's all back some up money, I guess. Anyway, okay.
Thank you. Any other items of information for the good of the cause? Again, I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I hope you're able to spend some good time with your families. Having satisfied the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is it moved in second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.